But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With a rocket or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0,
doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. That's the terrestrial radio down there in New Zealand. What's up, guys? Hope you're well tonight. Yeah, sorry about the last one. Anyway, we'll put that behind us. This is a good one tonight. If you guys have been paying any attention to the weird vibes of the zeitgeist, there's been this story going around for the last couple weeks, okay? And it's an oldie. It's an oldie but a goodie. This is one that doesn't really get a lot of attention. And it's interesting, sort of the UFO circuit, basically, of ideas as they sort of return. These old maybe papers or, CIA declassified things that have been branded as such, but may not be. And, it's complicated. But, hey, who doesn't love a wild story? And this wild story, like I said, if you've been paying any amount of attention, shout out Ricky and the fam out there. I know they talked about this a little bit last night on their show. That's Anything is Possible podcast. But check this out, or Talking with Conspiracy is what they're calling it with the friends there. But anyway, so this is a weird story, okay? It starts exactly like this. There's a whole bunch of these articles, if you guys have seen them recently. This is the last couple days. Like I said, this has been going around quite a bit. Do it that way. How do I fix this? Okay, the center we have. Okay, so this is from firstpost.com. Another one is from Interesting Engineering. And the headline is very simple. I mean, simple and wild. Aliens turned Soviet soldiers to stone for attacking their UFO. A declassified CIA file says. Okay, and this is the misleading part. I want to clear this up because this is an old document that's been making the rounds for quite a long time. And as usual, some of these things are tabloid stuff, right? Okay. Anyway, so believe what you want. As usual, I want to point out a couple things before we start on this because it is important as part of the larger context of the conversation. You know me, we're going to get weird. That's exactly the point of having this stuff, so we can talk mythology and UFOs and aliens and all kinds of stuff. But I want to point this out before we get into the meat and potatoes of this article and talk about the exact thing. John Greenwald Jr. posted this, again, from the Black Vault at blackvault.com on Twitter X. And he's talking about this exact thing. And I'll read it to you, his actual blurb. verbatim, because this is more important to get it right. He says, there is literally zero reason this CIA file should have gone viral, and yet here we are. Well, welcome to 2025, and all the things that should not go viral and continue to do. Anyway, he says a few bullet points. It was not declassified. It was never classified in the first place. Going to throw some cold water on this before we start, and then we'll get weird. 2, it was a newspaper article collected by the FBIS, an office with the CIA that monitored, translated, and analyzed foreign media broadcasts for intelligence purposes, and the source of the highlighted article was a tabloid. Yes, tabloids holding it down, right? He says, I posted the document online when it was released to me 25 years ago. So there you go. There's the actual memo and all the rest of the stuff. These links will be in the description down below if you guys want to check it out. And there you go. That concludes the fact check aspect of the show. But just so you know, this is probably not authentic, and I'm sure you're shocked. Color you shocked, right? But anyway, so it turns into this wild tale, as you would expect, because, well, many of these do, because let's just read the blurb, because it's interesting. I mean, at least it's let's say unique in that you don't get a lot of UFO tales or accounts or anything where they have something that kind of fits in the old mythologies or whatever, which this one certainly does. We'll get to the Gorgons in a moment here. But anyway, so according to Declassified, this is straight from the write-up, quote, declassifieds. According to declassified CIA documents, a terrifying incident reportedly took place during the Cold War era, around 1989 or 1990, it's unclear exactly when, during a military training exercise in Siberia. Yes, the story gained attention after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when previously classified KGB files supposedly became available. Here's how the tale goes. 25 Soviet troops were participating in training drills when a low-flying saucer-shaped spacecraft passed over their base in Siberia. For unknown reasons, the soldiers launched a surface-to-air missile at the craft and successfully brought it down. What? Crash retrievals indeed. After the spacecraft crashed, 5 short humanoids with large heads and black eyes emerged from the wreckage. According to the 2 soldiers who allegedly survived, these alien beings came close together and merged into one amorphous mass, I guess, the Cthulhu or something. I don't know. Only 2. So the merged beings formed a ball of light that then exploded, releasing an extremely bright light that turned 23 soldiers to stone. Yeah, to stone. Only 2 soldiers reportedly survived because they were partially shielded from the light. Think Perseus and the shield, and maybe indirect vision. Think Medusa, Gorgons. Anyway, so the KGB report claimed that the petrified soldiers and remains of the UFO were transported to a secret scientific research facility near Moscow. As well, you would expect, right? Soviet specialists allegedly concluded that an unknown energy source had instantaneously altered the soldiers' biological structure, transforming them into a substance with the same molecular composition as limestone. This is fine. This is totally fine. It's important to note that the CIA report is neither a confirmation nor denial of this encounter, but merely a retelling of a report originated from post-Soviet space that circulated back to the CIA. Again, like I said, sort of all the disclaimers apply as usual. By the way, that's a great time to drop it as part of the larger conversation as well. There's no truths to be found here. Just ideas, just looking at some of these older, let's say, modern-day folklore, and then recognizing that these tales seem to continue to be told over and over again, because we'll get to Perseus in a moment here, and the Gorgons and Medusa and her missing sisters, which many people have not even heard about. But terracotta soldiers, we'll get to that a little bit later. But love to hear your thoughts as usual. We're taking your calls tonight in all the places if you want to be part of the conversation. Phone line is up. Thanks to all the folks who have tested it. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. But anyway, so this story has primarily been reported in tabloid newspapers, which has led many researchers to question its authenticity. Okay, so that's all the cold water on this, but then we're going to get to the weird stuff coming up, because this gets weird. Because think about this. In terms of, let's say, mythology, it's not just the Gorgons of ancient mythology here, turning things to stone. There's Lot's wife in the Bible, right? The pillar of salt. And there's a lot of things here that really kind of click into this larger aspect. And it's amazing to me when these ideas come together into a UFO tail. Okay, so that's where we're at tonight. So the UFOs, I'm calling it the fourth Gorgon, a biological geology protocol for obvious reasons. And that's that. That puts us about where we need to be. And if you want to be part of the conversation, you know what to do. We got James here coming up in just a moment. And let's get a word from our sponsor in the meantime, which is, of course, in this case, human inspiration. Don't forget, in the age of AI, it's easy to lose yourself. It's easy to lose your identity. It's easy to believe yourself a budding demigod. But let's slow down. Let's slow down, guys. Let's slow down. This is brought to you by Human Inspiration. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. Absolutely do not go anywhere.
In a world increasingly shaped by AI, human inspiration remains the beating heart of creativity. Alien Skin by Tremble, a hauntingly beautiful piano ballad, reminds us that while algorithms can mimic art, the raw, unfiltered emotions of human experience are irreplaceable.
So here I sit, locked in my room again.
Written and composed by Jesse Ian in collaboration with Todd Smith, this progressive masterpiece delves into the depths of internalized grief and the silent toll of artistic compromise. As AI reshapes our reality, Alien Skin stands as a testament to the timeless power of human emotion and the complex beauty that only true artists can evoke. Experience the haunting beauty of Alien Skin by Tremble and support human inspiration. Available now on iTunes.
And welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so we started with UFOs, with this wild tale in 1989 or 1990. This UFO being attacked by Russian soldiers in Siberia. They fire some kind of missile at it, bring it down, and, well, subsequently, they're counterattacked and turned, most of them, 25 out of 27 soldiers, turned into stone. Weird, right? But what does it sound like to you? It certainly sounds like Perseus. It sounds like the Gorgons of old, the gaze that would turn anybody, any living thing, into stone itself. And it got me thinking, not just in terms of, let's say, the Star Trek aspect of this, you know, with the, what's it called? The transporter, where they put the people in and they basically dematerialize them. They zap them and then reconstruct them down on the planet or whatever to move them around. And it got me thinking sort of in those Star Trek terms regarding this. So think of it this way, not just, let's say, the Gorgons and Medusa, which we'll get to because it's, again, a fascinating tale, the Perseus and all this stuff. It's very good. However, you think it is possible? So as the questions begin tonight, well, I got a bunch of questions for you. First one, of course, is what do you think about the tale of the UFO turning these Russian soldiers to stone? Limestone in this case. Does that sound plausible? Interesting? Reasonable? Wild and out there? Whatever. As usual, look, all takes are valid here because, of course, we're always on the thin branch, as I like to say, as part of these conversations. So you decide what. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but it is an interesting tale, okay, as we begin. Second, do you think it is possible in some capacity, like I said, maybe the Star Trek transporter, maybe in the future, to be able to zap somebody with something and instantly turn them to stone? And there's a very complicated blurb in the write-up tonight talking about how this might be possible in the future with a certain level of, science fiction like laboratory stuff. It's complicated, and I'm not even sure it'll fly, but it doesn't really matter because we're all the disclaimers, no truth to be found here, all the rest of that. But anyway, so you think it's possible? How's it sit with you? And how come we have these, again, recurring tales, really kind of encroaching on sort of the UFO folklore of modern days and the tabloid aspect of it? I don't know. It's complicated per usual, but there's a couple things I was digging into this a little bit, and I this is one of the ones that escapes most people, that Medusa was the actual Gorgon that was slain by Perseus, as we know. If you follow any sort of Greek mythology, it's one of the famous ones, Clash of the Titans, right? Everybody mostly knows the tale. But here's the weird part is that Medusa was one of three sisters of these Gorgons, these snake-headed, not snake-headed, half snake, half person with a woman's face and snakes for hair, right? That whole bit. Well, she had sisters, Satheno and Euryale. Am I saying that right? Hold on, let me read this properly. Euryale. There you go, Euryale. Anyway, these links will be in the description down below. I thought it was fascinating because, number one, Medusa was the only mortal out of the batch. She was her other two sisters were actually immortal and unkillable by human standards. So in this Perseus tale, it's an interesting thing because it made me wonder, how come Medusa was mortal. It kind of didn't make sense, right? And we're talking mythology and whatnot, and everything doesn't have to tie neatly together because, there's sometimes these tales are fractured and, out of the temporal same space, we're, kind of piecing them together after the fact as well, but from different writings and different time frames and all the rest of that. But it did make me wonder. And so I was looking into the other Gorgons here and some other stuff, and it's pretty cool. But we'll get back to this because there's a lot here. And I did reach out to, if you guys are on the Discord, please join the Discord, troubledminds.org, click the Discord link. I did reach out to one Bevan Thomas. I'll pull up that post in a second here, asking about why Medusa was the only mortal and out of the three sisters here. And was it simply a plot device to tell the Perseus tale? Maybe not. Maybe there's a deeper meaning to this. Or maybe it's just a good story. You tell me. As usual, love to hear what you think about it. James popped in. James, are you ready? You ready to go? What's going on, brother? Welcome to the thing.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me all right.
Yep, loud and clear. Just making sure that you, cause I didn't want to sneak attack you because usually we're waiting to the bottom of the hour. But if you want to jump in here, you're welcome to. What's going on, my man?
Yeah, this is an amazing topic to me because not only do you have this turning to stone in mythology, like you said there, it's been used in so much other fiction throughout time, as far as fantasy goes, and even in video games and things like that. But the thing I wonder about that is, a lot of times in fantasy, if someone is turned to stone, there is usually some kind of potion or thing that can be used on them to reverse the process. And so I'm just really curious about that, and if there's some basis on some kind of science or mythology for that as well. I don't know. But the other thing with this is not so much turning to stone, but the idea of being paralyzed by other beings, whether it's aliens or anything really. There's so many accounts of people that have encounters with beings that they didn't know existed, and they are paralyzed. And sometimes they will say, well, I was paralyzed because I was so afraid, but not always. So that makes me wonder, is there some ability that other beings have to, even if it's not necessarily turning someone into stone, it's still sort of making them stop moving and even stop thinking in some cases. And so I wonder too, with that, as far as mythology goes, how literal was the idea of turning to stone? Was it meant to be literal, as in flesh and bone turning into stone, or was it more of a way of saying they never moved again?
Yeah, a different way, like a stasis of some sort. I'm following you there, and I was thinking along the same lines too when I was kind of going through this. It is odd that some of these not in Stonehenge, but some of these other sort of smaller Neolithic sites that have smaller stones, they suggest were old entities, trolls or something turned into stone, right? In the sunlight, we've all seen that in J.R.R. Tolkien, The Hobbit, right, where they have Gandalf shows up, they're about to get eaten by the trolls, and then Gandalf shows up and has like this weird time dilation thing, and the trolls lose track of time, and then the sun comes up, and then boom, they all turn to stone. And so they don't really maintain their entire physical presence. Of course they do in Tolkien because it's a fiction, but we're talking mythology now in the other aspects of it, that they think that maybe some of these things were exactly that or something similar, where they sort of get weathered over time. Look at the Sphinx and all the other things. If these ancient entities were turned to stone and left there to weather for thousands of years, what would they look like? They might look like a lot of the things we see out there in terms of the stone aspect of it as well, sort of the Neolithic age. And what I wanted to bring up is exactly what you said too, with the sort of the paralyzation effect of fear itself. All this kind of comes together definitely metaphorically and into the larger context of the conversation. And I'm glad you brought it up. You beat me to the punch. Go ahead. What else you got, sir?
Well, no, that's that just makes me wonder about that. As to the whole tabloid thing, what cracks me up about that is, for those that saw the first Men in Black movie, the tabloids were actually the news that the Men in Black used to investigate things. This was back in the 90s, early 90s, I believe, something like that, mid 90s, which was only a few years ago, of course. And so they would go to like the local newsstand, and they'd pick up these magazines, which everyone thought was just completely nonsense, and they'd find leads to cases they were working on. So I do wonder how often. I've heard before that with tabloids, it's sensationalized, but sometimes there can be some bits of truth in the articles. It just has to be sensationalized for sales and all that. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's just something I've heard regarding UFO and other anomalous experiences people have had over the years. When it's reported there, it's maybe exaggerated here and there, and then the title is just made to be as exciting as it can possibly be. But there may still be some truth in some of these articles. So I don't know if that's the case with this story, but I do know that we've probably all heard different shows over the years of the military all around the world having encounters with other beings. And so I can't completely rule it out either.
Yeah, funny that the state of the news media today is basically tabloid level fodder anyway. So to make fun of tabloids in 2025 is, well, making fun of the entire system, because welcome to it. And that's super funny that in Men in Black, they're like, well, let's go check the news. And they're buying tabloids in the supermarket or whatever. That's wild to consider that maybe there's a hint of truth in some of that stuff, as usual, right? So a lot of these tales really have a hint of truth, at least where the beginning, where it came from or whatever. Anyway, so what else regarding the stone stuff? You're welcome to sit in if you like, as you know, you're always welcome. And what else you got? As you know, we're watching the time here, got a couple minutes, but if you tell me, how you feeling?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else as of right now, so give me a couple minutes here, but I definitely would not mind. I think I'll sit in for this one as well.
Right on. Glad to have you. You know him, you love him. Again, the glue of the show, James Salcedo, the paranormal expert of Troubled Minds. And go check out his podcast, his radio show. Go check out the books he's written, all the projects he's working on. He's doing all manner of things. And if there's only one place you could find him, well, it would be SalcedoParanormal.com, or of course search it yourself, SALSIDO space paranormal, troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit, it's alphabetical, it says follow James here. Please do that. Go check out all his links and all the places and all the projects he's doing. Join his Discord so you can check it out and actually participate in his monthlies, so we're at kind of a roundtable get together sort of thing. And let's help the man out. That's the whole point of this, is growing together and broadening the horizon of a conversation in a lot of different ways. Appreciate you, James. We'll get back to him momentarily. So we are taking your calls tonight, and the idea is basically entities being turned to stone. Does it sound ridiculous? And if it sounds ridiculous, how come it seems to be a recurring theme, not just in mythology, the world over? Once again, there's a nice list in the write-up tonight if you want to see. There's multiple versions of this all over the world, as usual. But then also, if it seems ridiculous, how come this is something that's told again and again? James touched on some of it, I think, and I touched on some of it as well, with the stone things that maybe have been left weathered, kind of looking like people maybe, or humanoid entities in some capacity. Maybe this is where these stories came from, or that petrified in fear aspect of, being zapped by a spell and then being able to really reclaim yourself in a moment, this type of thing. I mean, that human effect certainly plays here, but how come we're still telling these stories again and again and again? And how come, once again, the mythology aspect of this is now encroaching in 2025, as this 25-year-old story is now in the zeitgeist once more, going viral, with UFOs turning Russian soldiers, Soviet soldiers, into stone themselves. Weird, right? This is a weird one. And that's, me, I like the weird ones, because I think there's way more to this than a lot of the other folks out there touch on, which is why we're, the coalition of the weird, because there's a lot of ways to look at it. And that's exactly the point. So as you know, nonlinear, open-ended as part of these conversations go. Love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you know about Gorgons? What do you know about the two sisters of Medusa? How come Medusa was the only mortal of the bunch? What else is going on with this? And what about UFOs and the technology of actually turning people into stone? Does it sound ridiculous? I'd say maybe, but also There's a little bit more to it, and I think that's why we need to discuss this. Once again, love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Get on in here. Be right back. More on the way. We got Michael W. coming up. More from James and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. Yeah. Indeed. What's going on? Hope everybody's well tonight. What's up? We got thanks, James, for chipping in here, and always a pleasure. We'll talk to you soon. We got Daryl. What's up, Eric? We got Jeff and Wisco Sweets, Matt's out, Michael W. coming up next, Herschel Gaston, Sonia, Apoc, and Dawn. I see you guys. What's going on? Over to where is this? Rumble. What's up? What's up? Puff is here. What's up, Gordo? I see you guys. What's up, North Vixen, Hiker? Good evening, guys. Hello. Hope you're well tonight. Yeah, there's a lot here. Lots of wild things to consider and talk about. What do you know about it? Over to YouTube. Is this muted? Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we got Richard in Texas, Mr. Mission Control. What's going on, guys? I see you there. Good evening, Lily in Australia. Welcome back. We got Ioxy. Hello. Help, I'm a rock. Help, I'm a rock. What's up, Shane? Blind Psyching Out. How you doing? What's up, buddy? Good evening. If I missed anybody, just say hi. I'll say hi back as we go, and trying to get everybody in here and be as social as possible. That's what it's all about anyway. Here we go. Trouble Minds coming up in about 15 seconds. Michael W. coming up, and your calls as well. Why do we keep telling the same tales over and over and over again? Seems like we have a pattern amongst patterns. Let's talk about it. Here we go. Trouble Minds happening right about now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and of course 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. We're starting with this bizarre story told by, well, many people. 23 Soviet troops turned to stone. They're calling it declassified CIA docs, revealing this deadly alien encounter. But of course, as we talked about, some things are stranger than fiction, of course, but then also they have echoes that go back to the past in bizarre ways, including, of course, the Gorgons and turning people to stone, or other entities, the Kraken, or as the other sea, I think it was just a generic sea monster, not the Kraken in the Perseus tale, but with Andromeda and the whole bit. Wait, was it Andromeda? Yeah, Cassiopeia. Getting confused. Anyway, so the point is this: how come we keep telling the same damn tale over and over again? Except instead of Gorgons, this time it's UFOs. You get it? It's weird. It's a weird thing to me why we continue to do this over and over again. When hey, this is the 2025, the era of large language models. We could have all manner of wild stuff. So why don't we do that instead? I don't know. It's strange, but it is one of those things. How you feeling about it? Anything to add to that, James? And we'll go to Michael W.
Oh, just I don't think we need the AI to come up with some amazing accounts of experiences people have had throughout time. There's plenty already there, but yeah, I can definitely add more to it, I guess. But yeah, there's just so many accounts of, even if it's not stone, just this stone-like state of being. And also, I did want to touch on the transporter thing real quick. With Star Trek, there was one episode where someone was there was supposedly an accident. Now, it didn't actually turn out that way, but there's this idea that there could be accidents with the transporter, and you could end up just not reappearing at all, or you could appear as just a pile of organic matter, and because of glitches in the systems and all that. So there's sci-fi examples of ways of doing things that to bodies that would not be very pleasant at the very least.
Yeah, 100%. Let me put this on. Hang tight, Michael W. Give me 30 more seconds. So I brought out the big guns. Bevan Thomas over there on Twitter, X, give her a follow, at Beat Thomas A folklorist, basically, a writer, and always talking about these amazing things on X. And I tagged her and said, hey, Medusa's mortality, in contrast to the immortality of her Gorgon sisters, Stheno and Euryale, I think I said them right, is a significant aspect of Greek mythology, particularly in the context of her role in the myth of Perseus. Do we know why Medusa was mortal, other than that plot device? Bevan was kind enough to answer me and said, to the best of my knowledge, it's never explained. It's just a plot device. Perseus is told to bring back a Gorgon's head, and he realizes it has to be Medusa because she's the only one who can be killed. Interesting. Fate intertwines with the plot device. Dun, 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 and the plot thickens. Love to hear your thoughts on this. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. As you know, a lot of ways to take this. We can talk UFOs. We can talk mythology. We can talk about everywhere in between, as we usually do. Let's go to Michael W. on the Discord. What's up, brother? How you doing tonight? You're on Troubled Minds, and go right ahead. All you got to do is unmute, and you're up.
Hello, friends. How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing tonight? I liked your hilarious comments when we started, but what do you got for us?
Yeah, no, I'm just cooking dinner. But the funny thing is, my oldest kid knows a lot more than I do about like all the ancient Greek mythology stuff, and I think Greek and Roman mythology they actually know quite a bit about, and they're a big fan of the Gorgons as well. And I wanted to give James a shout out. I know exactly the Star Trek episode that he's talking about with the transporter malfunction. And there were people, I think if I remember, there were people getting stuck in the transporter matrix, and, they tried to beam them down, and then they never arrived. And they're like, oh my God, where are they? And everything ended up good in the end. But it's funny how all of these stories are tying together right now. I'm trying to hold them together in my head, but it feels like I'm trying to, catch dollar bills in a tornado.
Yeah, well said. But they do stack. They absolutely do stack. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, yeah. I've always been. I think it was because of the way I was raised. I'm not going to talk very long, but I'll just say a little bit and then let somebody else go. The way I was raised, much primarily by my mother. I was not terribly close to my father, but I was nailed down I was by my mother's side every day. You know, I was a mama's boy as a kid. And my mom told me, she would tell me things at a young age that she didn't have any business telling a kid, you know, about the real world, you know, and told me about how men treated her in life and the real world. And she would just drill things into my head. And she would tell me, if I ever catch you treating a woman this way, you better hope I never get a hold of you, and things like that, you know. And I think that's why I had this little bit of a Gorgon kink growing up, you know, because I was exposed at a very young age to like civil rights regarding women's rights and things like that. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the whole idea of Medusa in those stories. And I don't know if I'm right about this, but I thought, because I didn't study these terribly well, but I thought that she had been transformed from a human into a Gorgon, because she had been essayed by another Greek god or something, right? She was a victim of sexual assault, and at some point that like turned her into the monster we perceived her as. And I thought maybe that had something to do with why she was mortal while the others weren't, because she wasn't born that way. She was turned into that because of the trauma that she had suffered. And that's how I always felt about the character of Medusa, was like, oh my God, she's not the bad guy. She's the victim. Like in the patriarchy society that we live in, you know, we were taught to fear her as a monster. But from a young age, I saw her as somebody who was a victim, who had suffered trauma, who should not have been subjected to the trauma that she had been subjected to. And had it not been for that, she wouldn't have been this terrifying monster. And I'll admit that I was turned on by the idea of Medusa. And I like the idea of how bad I want her to notice me. But what if she does? You know? You know what I'm saying?
Then it's all bad.
Anyways.
Good game. Hey, you were correct, by the way. So what the tale you told there is true as far as I can recollect. And I've been delving the depths of mythology for the last couple of days trying to figure this out. And that's one of the tales that came later in a Roman tradition, was that Medusa was initially assaulted in a temple by Poseidon and was then... for defiling the temple, Athena was super pissed off, but she couldn't actually punish Poseidon. So instead, she punished Medusa and turned her into a Gorgon, which means that
there we have
she
it.
was, so she was the third sister now, but then also the only mortal because she began mortal. So as part of it. So yeah, you're absolutely spot on as far as everything I read. And like I said, I was going deep on this, trying to find out if there was like an earlier, more primordial way of this, because the Perseus tale is one of the originals. It goes way, way, way back before that Roman tradition of them kind of doing the, you know, fixing the history a little bit to make it make a little more sense. But you're absolutely spot on with that. But Fire Stuff, go ahead. What you got?
Okay, yeah, good. And then now, like you talk a lot about your Dungeons and Dragons roots, and that's so fascinating to me. And I dabbled as a kid in the late 90s, I think. I dabbled in Dungeons and Dragons, but I also had a very difficult time doing things that required a lot of reading or paying attention. But I did discover a PC game in the late 90s called Baldur's Gate that was basically a game that functioned on D&D rules. You know, it was a turn-based thing. And that's where I learned most of what I learned about D&D. And like, was it James that was talking about the possibility of like when somebody is caught in this stone gaze and turned to stone, which I also wanted to say, like I read the article about the Russian soldiers that met these aliens and got turned to stone. And I also wanted to point out the times in the Bible where people were fleeing from the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and they got turned into pillars of salt, and how that seemed like a really similar thing to me. But James was talking about how there was this. I think it was James that was saying this a minute ago about how the possibility of the process being reversed and being rescued from your forever mineral prison. And in the game that I had played, the game Baldur's Gate, you could come across once in a while someone who was turned to stone, and you could rescue them if you had in your possession a scroll called the Stone to Flesh scroll. And there was that was actually a really good way to get a very powerful druid into your party, by coming across them and having this scroll in your possession and rescuing them, and they were grateful and they joined your party, and then you had a druid who could heal you in your battles and stuff like that. Anyways, I don't have any profound way to go with all this, but I do remember reading that article about those poor Russian guys that unfortunately ran into the aliens and got turned into stone. I think it's all very fascinating. I think that's all I had to contribute tonight, and I'll shut up and let everybody else do some more talking.
You're the best. Appreciate it very much. Go get that dinner, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
All right. I love you guys.
You're the best. That's Michael W. on the Discord. You know where to find him. Come join the Discord if you have not. Like I said, we've made a lot of really amazing friends as part of the process of this show. Michael, again, one of them. Please come say hi. There's a lot of really smart, nice people. And the only rule on the Discord is just don't be a D-bag to each other. It's okay to disagree on things, and we can talk about ideas, and it's okay. It's okay to recognize we're from different reality tunnels, not just a trauma space like we talked about recently, but of course, belief systems and dogma cycles and all these things. But recognize those are sort of structures that try and break the world down. We can sort of overcome those obstacles and be good to each other. It's really one of the core tenets of what Troubled Minds has always been, is that, look, I'm not sure I believe any of this stuff, but it doesn't matter, because considering it is the first step toward that Arthur C. Clarke magic and science sort of merging and becoming, this quickening, and we're always talking about with the AI systems and whatnot. But yeah, we're talking again, 23 Soviet troops turned to stone. Where do you join the Discord? TroubledMinds.org. Click the Discord link. 23 Soviet troops turned to stone. And again, these are not declassified documents. Again, John Greenwald Jr. set us straight. All these links will be in the description. Check it out down below. And it is from initially a tabloid, but James very smartly pointed out that, maybe, just maybe, there's a sliver of truth in this somewhere, because who really knows? We've heard a lot of wild accounts of experiencers or people seeing anomalous things in the sky that are as yet unexplainable. So wild stuff. Kind of merging this with the story of the Gorgons, Perseus, and some of this other stuff, but it's wild how it all comes together. Anything to add, James? And then we'll go to Eric after that.
Yeah, I think I remember now the series I was thinking of that had, and I don't know how this would work. It was actually like a potion or something that that you would use. It was in the Final Fantasy series of games. I think it was even called Soft. And it literally, it would, change someone back from stone, at least as far as what I remember hearing about and reading, and make them normal again. And this is, of course, the series that does go back now. The first one was like 80s, I think, early 90s. So, and I'm sure if it's in that series, and there's versions elsewhere as well. So, makes me wonder if there's other accounts of that in maybe deeper in mythology or deeper in folklore, something similar that could reverse the process.
Yeah, 100%. Also, shout out Baldur's Gate. It's a classic. It's a banger. That's one of the actual classics. It was actually a really good D&D game made. Yeah, it's complicated. This is all complicated, and it is interesting why these tales keep being told again and again, and in similar ways. Except in this case, it's not the Gorgons turning adventurers into stone. It is now the UFOs turning soldiers into stone in Cold War Soviet territory, which is ridiculous. Or is it? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to what's up, Eric in Ohio. What's up, my man? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
I am doing well. How are you guys?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Great. Yes, as Michael W. pointed out, the Roman poet Ovid in the 1st century, in his book Metamorphosis, Book 4, recounts that Medusa was a beautiful maiden. He says that she was famed for her beauty and the hope of many suitors, and that she was especially noted for her lovely hair. And as he also pointed out, she was raped by the sea god Neptune, also known as Poseidon, in the Temple of Athena, and it was Athena that punished her for this sacrilege and cursed her to have snakes for hair and changed her appearance and gave her the stone gaze, which was a curse. But for sure, the legend goes much, much deeper than that.
As usual, right? And this is one of the ones too that everybody knows with Greek and Roman mythology, because you think of one sort of iconic image, and it's Medusa with the snakes and the hair and all the deal. But go right ahead. What else you got?
Well, if you go back to the 5th century BCE, then you start talking about Pindar and his Pythian Ode, or Pythian Ode would be another way of saying that, which was about Perseus's deed of going off to kill Medusa. Largely considered to be the reason why she was going off to be killed was because she was the only one that could be killed, with her 2 sisters, Eurythne and Thea, whatever the first name is, are immortal. So by that point, they still can't be killed. So he's the only one that can be sent off to do this deed that's like a heroic deed, right? So if it's going to be a heroic deed, this would be one of the things he could do. Couldn't do the other thing. So... But it goes back beyond that to Hesiod in the 8th and 7th century BCE and Homer. By the time you go back this far to ancient Greece and you read Hesiod, he talks about Medusa being a primordial creature from existence that lives in the dark side of the earth, or where it's dark, that it was just one creature called a Gorgon, or a Medusa, and Homer talks about the Gorgon head being, or the Medusa head being on the shield of Agamemnon, and also references a Gorgon as a beast in hell. So they're kind of separated at this point in ancient Greek history in terms of she didn't have sisters, and she was immortal when Hesiod's writing about her. And he also talks about her lying with the deity in a field, but doesn't say anything about like that's how she got turned into a creature or anything like that. And then like you can go further back than that to the Minoans. This is like circa 3000 BC to 1100 BC, and the Minoans were a palace orientated ancient culture, considered the first culture in Europe, and they had megarons in their castles. And when this society was being ran, the priesthood of them was ran by females, and they had an affinity with snakes. So there's all these votive figures of female priestesses with snakes that's found all around Crete, where the Minoans were, in their palaces and stuff. There's like a palace at Knossos that's been heavily excavated. And when the ancient Greeks seen the even more ancient Minoans, or when they looked upon the ruins of the ancient Minoans, out of that came the legend of the Medusa, to make sense of all of these votive figurines that they had found of females with snakes. And also there came the legend of the labyrinth and the Minotaur. They perceived the Knossos castles, or not castles, but palaces, to be labyrinths because they were open sky, megaron situated palaces that looked like a labyrinth. And so a lot of these ancient legends that the Romans adapted from the ancient Greeks adapted from either the Mycenaeans or the Minoans. And so originally Medusa was a single protective deity that people would use to guard things. Like she was protective of things like animals and agriculture. But when that fell out of favor, the ancient Greeks rewrote the myths, just kind of like they did with the Titans and stuff and the Olympian gods. And then, of course, later it got rewritten again by Ovid and Pindar then Ovid, and by the time it gets to Ovid, it's completely turned around, and she's got sisters, and she's been cursed for something that she's done. And then later on in art, she starts being depicted as extremely beautiful, and so she becomes like a victim. So the whole mythology has transformed over thousands of years in either misunderstood ways or in ways to codify a mythology, essentially.
Chasing the plot lines and making sure that plot devices are intact and all the rest of it. Revisionist history all the way back to thousands of years ago, which is wild to me that they're kind of like, well, it fits better like this now, so we'll tell it like this. And thank you for all that. I didn't know 2/3 of that. I did know the Minotaur and where it came from, the labyrinth and all the rest of that. But here's the thing. So it's dawning on me that Medusa is sort of a primordial spirit in the sense of like Lilith or something to that degree, right? Where this is like a very, very old trope of feminine power, but then of course becomes corrupted, bastardized, and changed into become the demon later, which is, again, I mean, I know women, they're very nice. There's a lot of very nice women. So that is ridiculous. And that's also covered very well, if you guys haven't read it, in Holy Blood, Holy Grail and Da Vinci Code. If you haven't checked that out, I know many of you probably seen that. But it's an interesting thing how they kind of changed that matriarchy and kind of put it by the wayside for the war machine, which is still the propaganda and stuff we're dealing with today. It's wild to consider. What else you got regarding that, or anything else? As usual, what about the UFO tale? Does that strike you as odd, that turning soldiers into stone?
Well, I think I first heard about that from Ricky like not too long ago, and he was talking about it, and like the other caller pointed out with the turning to salt. By looking back on Sodom and Gomorrah, there's been a lot of that in ancient mythology and ancient history. I mean, the idea that there can be a mortal sibling and an immortal sibling is not something that hasn't been done before. Like, it's actually happened a lot. Like Castor and Pollux, for instance. The Castor and Pollux were, in the Roman mythology, the two twins that became the Gemini constellation. Pollux was an immortal son of Zeus, and Castor was not immortal. And Castor died, and I believe Pollux wanted to have him resurrected, but Zeus wouldn't do that, so instead he changed both of them into the Gemini constellation. But there's been Prometheus and Epitheus. One was mortal, one was not mortal. And a lot of the basis of these stories, there's even the Vedic one too, where the idea is that these mortal people are intermediaries, the bridge between the understanding of man and the incomprehensible concept of the metaphysics of the gods. So it's like a way of scaling down the story of the gods that will make sense to human concerns, right? Because since there's this bridge or bleed over that sometimes gods can have demigods, or, they take an interest in the affairs of mortals, and this is why this happened, So it can be a plot device at that point when you've got that kind of a bridge, and it's happened from the Minoans to the ancient Greeks to the Romans, and then further on into like the Romantic era of art. So I have seen that in other mythologies for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting parallel too with the Sodom and Gomorrah. Don't look. You can't look. Sort of this forbidden knowledge, or the witnessing some sort of ancient power will also sort of affect the human aspect of it. It's a wild thing that many things kind of trace in similar ways. We're just about out of time. You're welcome to stay past the break. We got Kelly on the line behind you. You tell me. We've got about a minute left. If you got a final thought, and if you want to stay, you're welcome to.
No, man, I can dip. It's cool.
Right on. You're the best. I'm going to drop this before you go too, as just another thing to think about. It's bizarre that we're coming into this space where we have, immortality on the table, at least with the acceleration of technology and whatnot, the AI space, which will kind of bring us back to Gemini again. Think about this. Is there going to be a technological immortality where one sibling decides to be immortal and one sibling does not? Interesting times we live in, for sure. You're the best, brother. Appreciate the call.
Yeah. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. You know him, you love him. Eric, give him a follow. Eric in Ohio and formerly Florida. TroubledMinds.org. Scroll down. It says follow Eric here. Check out his music. Hammersmith Music, I believe is what it's called. And definitely talented guy, as you can tell. And this is right down his alley. Absolutely. Glad to have him in the Troubled Minds fam here. Please support our friends. That's what this is about. Go listen to his music. Go hang out. Come join the Discord. Come meet him. He's a fantastic guy. He hangs out with us sometimes on the Discord after hours as well. That's what we're talking about. The fourth Gorgon, I'm calling this, which of course means the larger contextual aspect of things turning to stone by some entity. What do you know about it? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. More from James coming up. We got Kelly in Colorado and your calls as well. Do not go anywhere. Be right back.
In a cryogenic slumber, lost in the lunar night, your face a faded number among the stars so bright. Dreams of forgotten echoes, waiting for time's command. Curtains of gray and sorrow, the lonely lunar sand. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we try, silent by your ancient souls reside, suspended in a story, kept in the cold dark tide. Our futures in the making, silver-edged domain, hearts kept in silent aching, till we meet once again. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we try. Frozen time we're resting, waiting for dawn's embrace. Whispers of love confessing in this forgotten place. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we try. Indeed, great calls, guys. You are the best. What's up, Daryl? What's going on? We got Eric. Fantastic stuff. Appreciate you, brother. We got Jeff and Wisco. What's up? That's, my goodness, I know this. Roving fungus. Yes, that's what it is. Memory serves. Michael W. Fantastic stuff from you as well. What's up, Gaston? Sonia. APOC is here. What's up, Matt Sal, Sweets, Herschel, Dawn, and that's Sentient. Who is that? Oh, all these faces. That's changing. Oh, Sacrifice Pain. What's up, Sacrifice Pain? Welcome back to the thing. Do we do the thing? What's the Sacrifice Pain? Is it right here?
Sacrifice Pain. Yeah. Love.
Love the name. Love the name. What's up? Hope you guys are well tonight. If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. Doing my best to keep up with everybody. What's up, Lily in Australia? Welcome back. What's up, Carla? I see you there. Herschel. What's up, Sonia? Yeah. Lots of things going on, and great to see you. What's up, YY's here? What's up, Gordo? Hiker? I see you. Good evening, guys. Raz, welcome to the joint. What do you guys know about Medusa? And so pinned over there on Rumble, Gordo said this: how did Medusa sleep at night with all those snakes slithering around? It's a hell of a question. Also a hell of a watchdog situation, huh? What is up? Who did I miss? If I miss you, just say hi. I'll say hi back, trying to keep up and do my best here. Let's see. Is a blue name up there? Who was that? Oh, yeah, it's Vixen. What's up, North Vixen? Okay, here we go. Troubled Minds coming up. More from James if he's got it. We got Kelly on the line and your calls as well. What do you know about this? What about UFOs turning Soviet soldiers to stone? Pretty strange, right? Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand on the Underground Media Network. Tonight, we're talking, I'm calling this the fourth Gorgon, Biological Geology Protocol. Because, of course, everybody knows Medusa and her sisters turned people to stone, or any living entity into stone if they came across her gaze. Perseus, of course, was helped by the gods to go slay Medusa, which is, again, it's an interesting tale. As we just talked with Eric there, a fantastic call. It goes back a long ways, and it's changed quite a lot. As usual, a lot of these tales have changed quite a lot over the years, and that's why it's really difficult to pin down sort of a canon of Greek mythology or Roman mythology, because you're like, well, what do you mean in this century or that century type of stuff? It's complicated. But in 2025, in this century, we're still talking about this, except in a different way. The article we're citing tonight is from, of course, the lots of people reporting this, Interesting Engineering, or the other one I got is firstpost.com, but New York Post reported it, all kinds of people. But it goes like this: aliens turned Soviet soldiers to stone for attacking their UFO. Weird, right? It seems strange to me. And it definitely harkened back to the idea of the Gorgons turning people to stone, and the idea that's been around for a very, very long time. And it's strange how these ideas resurface. And sometimes it's the demigods, sometimes it's the gods of old, sometimes it's a primordial entity, back to Medusa, and shout out Eric, great stuff. But also, a lot of this stuff resurfaces in the UFO space. Interesting, right? It's almost as if the old ways are being hijacked by the new tales. You get it? I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe, maybe not. You tell me. Love to hear your take on it. You know the drill. Non-linear, open-ended. We can take this anywhere you like. James, anything on that? And then we'll go to Kelly.
Yeah, I was thinking just what you said there about mythology and how all these stories, there's so many variations and changes made to them over time. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Cultures do what they do for their own reasons, for for whatever works for them. But also it reminds me of how I've heard it suggested over the years now that a lot of aliens are fae that have changed shape and appearance and sort of the way they act to still be relevant or to still be around people today, and it's just our perceptions of them that have changed. And then again, that reminds me of the way that the mythology has changed and these stories have changed over time as well. I'm not saying that people don't have experiences. I can't do that because I've had experiences too. That'd be pretty bad of me to do that, to say that that's the case. But yeah, so I do think there's a lot that goes on there with that can change over time with anything. With any one story, it can take many forms, and so that's why I can't just write off that article, because I don't know for sure.
Yeah, and it continues to take many forms as well. So what about this? What about sort of that primordial energy, whatever that was, the Medusa energy, has been remanifested in this UFO? Again, conceptual thinking here. So everybody relax. Everybody calm down. Everybody take a sip. Everything's good. But what about that sort of returning to the modern time? And maybe they sort of pissed off an ancient ancestral spirit, as we've talked about quite a lot on this show, of one of my favorite theories is that ancient ancestral primordial nature spirit. So I wonder, right, again, with these recurring themes, if some of that stuff may still play in 2025, even though it turns into a UFO tale. Amazing stuff to me to think about anyway. Anything on that? We'll go to Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, the story says that 5 figures combined into one somehow, into this light that exploded. It's almost like the reverse, or another version of the snake's Medusa's head.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Lots going on here. And what is it? Does it make your tinfoil tingle, as I like to say it? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubleminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Kelly in Colorado. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
Good evening, fellas. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you very much. Welcome to the joint. What's on your mind, my man? What do you know about Medusa and this turn into stone bit?
Oh, man. First off, I just want to say I love Medusa, man. That story, I read the one story about it, and yes, you guys were correct. Like, who was it that?
Eric, right?
The god that, and back then those gods, they didn't have like, they weren't like nice to the humans. They were raping them. That's what those gods were doing. So Medusa was actually, she was a beautiful girl, but she was raped by Poseidon, right? And then for doing that, obviously the other god, the female god, turned her into a beast. So, you know what I mean? It's a kind of a sad story if you think about it. First she gets raped and then she gets turned into a beast. It's like, man, it's terrible.
And then
with that too, though.
And then slain in one of the most famous mythologies anybody's ever heard in history. So not only was she like victimized, then she was killed in the most grotesque manner while she was sleeping, no less, by a guy that was helped by the gods with this magical shield and the magical hat that made him invisible and the magical sandals that made him fly. And then she continued to kill things or turn things to stone after she was dead because he carried around this bag or head around this bag and kept turning people to stone. It's crazy. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, to add that too, man. That poor lady. She was. That's a terrible. So after that, after I learned that, I was like, man, I'm pro Medusa all the way. But yeah, there's some other stories too of like different creatures that was noted in Pliny the Elder, right? He was in his natural histories writings, right? And he talks about two couple beasts that were called the basilisk and the cockatrice. Yeah, those creatures too. They were more like the basilisk was more like a reptile type creature, and it was known as the Serpent King, which is an interesting detail on it. But it was known for him to like his gaze would turn people and would kill them and turn them into stone. But it's like the cockatrice. It's another type. They were kind of like two different, or two same things but different. The other one, the cockatrice, was like a two-headed dragon. It was serpent-like also. It had the scales anyway, and it had a rooster's head, and its stare and its breath could also turn you into stone. Which is, But what's interesting about those ones, they were like, they were known to have been like hatched by a toad. It's a weird combination too. It was like, the way it's like a bird, like an egg though, but it was hatched by a toad and incubated by a snake or something. The story's a crazy one though. But when you were talking about Russia, I thought you were gonna, I've heard that story, that same story too, where the Russians were turned into stone. But I thought you were gonna talk about this other one, which is it's another like story that it comes from out of the Komo Republic in Russia, right? It's a divide between Europe and Asia. It's called the Ural Mountains, and in the Ural Mountains they have these people called the Mansi, and they're like all the distant relatives of like the Hungarian people, but from like back in the past. But in the Mansi language, they call them Manpopo Nayar, and the meaning of that is like they call it the Little Mountain of Gods. And the story goes like these six giants were crossing divide, but there was a shaman that turned a spell on him, and it turned him into stone, right? But he was too close to the spell himself, the shaman, and he got caught up in his own magic, and he also turned to stone. That's where you see 6 kind of like in a line, and 1 is like kind of set off from it. Right, that's inside in the Manti legend, but they have like throughout that region they have a lot of like mountains, kind of like that. But these ones like stand in spears, right? But they claim is like but they do have erosion like mountains like through that area though. But I just like the story about that. You know what I mean? It kind of follow. Like a lot of those old stories like that, but I thought that's the one you were talking about. And that also comes out of the Russian area, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of wild tales that come out of a Soviet era Russia. It's like, what the hell are they doing? What are you guys talking about? And I did know, by the way, the basilisk and the cockatrice because I'm a D&D fan, and as everybody knows, they're in the first edition Monster Manual, which is, of course, where all my esoteric wisdom comes from. So, we're on the same page here, which is incredible. So nice pulling that one out of your hat. Because, the basilisk was an entity that turned people to stone. And so this becomes part of that larger conversation of how come we have these recurring things, these themes worldwide that are, again, impossible. The impossibilities of magic. Do you think there was a time, maybe, technologically, ancient astronaut theorists say yes style, where maybe a technology was witnessed and something like this happened and then kind of entered the temporal zeitgeist through word of mouth and turned into these tales? Or what's your take on it? Why are we still talking about it in 2025 with UFOs now instead of Medusa and the basilisk? What's your take?
Well, I was kind of going to go into that one too, because like in a tale of Thoth, he doesn't really turn people into stone. It was like when he was leaving Atlantis when it was sinking, and he went to the land of Chem, which is known now as Egypt. But when he came in, he talks about, they went to the sky, and when they came down, these hairy barbarians came out after him, after their ship landed. And they were like coming at him with spears and sticks and stones. He calls them the hairy barbarians. But he says what he does is he hits his cane or his rod into what he was carrying, one of these weapons, and he hits the ground, and it causes a vibration, and it freezes everybody in their tracks like they're turned into stone. You know what I mean? He said he didn't kill them, but he froze them and he explained to them why, who they were, that they were the sons of Atlantis. They weren't gods, but they were sons of Atlantis, and they're there to bring him to a higher intelligence. And, and then the story goes on, he releases them and then, teaches them. And then that's where he turns mud into, more like the mud into a kingdom, right? Which is, he built the 3 artificial mountains, which is, the pyramids and stuff. But yeah, that's another interesting story where, it's kind of like the saying, but it's not turning them into stone, but it's freezing them though. But it's kind of similar. But yeah, man, I think there's anything like that. That's some high technology. You're obviously using some kind of a vibrational frequency, to freeze something. Excuse me. But you also have there's all kinds of videos these theories of I follow a lot of these weird ones too, like that. But this one kid did a very good one. He's from Europe, from England. But he talks about giants, like mountains are actually giants that are turned into stones. You hear a lot of them where they call the Lady of the Mountain. Like in Alaska, they have it where, especially when it starts snowing, the hair you can see it where she's laying down, and how the mountains come down. It looks like her hair especially when it's a light snow. It's actually pretty cool. But you have a lot, you hear all kinds of them. But this video this guy did, it's pretty compelling. I don't know, man. They look like giant, actually turned into stone. Besides different creatures, I've seen different alligators or snakes. One was a big giant snake, looks like in the jungle, were just turned into stone. It's petrification. But how to freeze something like that, to it's almost, instead of frozen like snow, it's frozen, just turn into petrification, instantly like that.
Yeah, which got me thinking again, sort of in the technological protocol of what that might look like. It's a weird thing because right now it seems again like magic, but I'm kind of certain we could emulate this in like a couple hundred years, or with the acceleration, maybe next week. Who really knows what's going on with technology? Because it's just everything's changing so quickly. But that's the type of stuff that, like I said, as usual, me, I like to think about it all the different ways as much as possible, as much as you filter a ton of information through and wonder about why these things sort of resonate. But it seems like it might be like a death ray, like a Tesla's death ray or something like that, where it's like, you hit the button, or like think of the Ark of the Covenant, right? Where if you look at it or whatever, and the beams and all the stuff, back to the Indiana Jones theory there a little bit. It's strange how all of this stuff, sort of these artifacts or whatever, these ancient powers go way back, and not only can do, let's say, electrical or lightning damage, it's very Dungeons and Dragons, or turn you to stone. It's wild to consider that it's a possible technology soon. You know what I mean? Maybe not next week, maybe not next month, maybe not 5 years from now, but I would say probably a couple hundred years from now, this will be crowd control. It'll be temporary, but they'll be like, and then blow this horn or whatever, toot the trumpet, and you won't know where it came from. You'll be looking around and where's that sound coming from? And then you'll turn to stone. But then, of course, it's curable, and they'll move you out of there safely and not have to beat anybody with a baton on the head, and then blow the horn again, and then you're back to your normal self. You know what I'm saying? Like a ancient astronaut theory, crowd control. Anyway, sorry about that for the sideline. What else you got?
No, that actually sounds pretty cool. I mean, we actually, the government got some kind of crowd control like that, but using like sound frequencies. But if you're using acoustics, like because you've seen, I'm pretty sure you might have ran across the thing. It's been all over like other things. But they were talking about it's like a tractor beam, but they're using acoustics. Right, so they're actually using acoustics to even tractor beam. So if you're using a tractor beam, it's actually freezing something, right? You ain't gonna be moving about. It's freezing you with acoustics and then pulling it toward you. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not like. I'm pretty sure that's been. I mean, that's probably still old news, but I wouldn't say it was even any kind of futuristic. I'm pretty sure they got something like that already. If they're already releasing something, because they let little bits, like someone was talking about earlier, they let little bits and pieces out, where it's like half-truths, kind of like you guys were talking about those, those magazines that they all had back then,
Yeah, for sure. Again, all kinds of stuff too. We've talked about, what is it, the LRAD too? Is that what it's called? We've talked about that, sort of the modern technology we know about, sort of the crowd control aspect, where it's painful, but it won't kill you. It'll kind of run you off. You'll start to feel your guts buzzing or something. You're like, get me out of here. Start to hear your skin heating up, and you're like, okay, enough of this, and you sort of voluntarily remove yourself. Yeah, again, if we have that level of technology, which is old technology, by the way, I do wonder what DARPA's cooking up in their lab, which we always talk about, because who really knows, right?
Well, we got I've seen where they have a new gun, before, because they were talking about like, okay, the new technology with these small drones, right? They call them those, I don't know what they call them, but they send out like thousands of the slaughter bots, right? Those little small slaughter bots, and then they're worried about, the company was, it brought out a new technology, and it's actually a gun, and it does that. But it shoots and it sprays, kind of like it sprays this microwave, right? So it's not just a beam, but the whole spray, when he was hitting his gun, I mean, it was dropping like 50, 60, and if he was just moving all the way around, it was like all these drones were just dropping right out of the sky because he was frying them. But yeah, DARP has been believe me, they've got this stuff. I'm pretty sure. I mean, this acoustic, especially that, when you're talking with space and stuff, like moving stuff around, you don't want to, kind of like the Inky story where he's coming through and instead of like blowing up asteroids, he was using water to push them away. Now I'm pretty sure he could use frequency to do the same thing. But yeah, it's interesting to think though, man.
Yeah, 100%. So the UFO thing, you're more inclined to believe that the Russian one, the Soviet one, or do you think that's more of like a propaganda aspect of that Cold War? Remember, here's the thing too, just a real quick reminder of the Cold War Moscovium was a byproduct of the Bob Lazar story, the element 115. Is that supposedly, and again, this is one of the theories on why this turned into a Cold War situation with these UFO tales and them leaking out heavily into the press and people talking about them and them getting boosted up and all the rest, is that Russia thought we had element 115. And then so they stepped on the gas and spent an unbelievable amount of money as part of the Cold War to catch up and try and do this. And that's why actually the true element 115 is called Moscovium, because they actually discovered it. It wasn't us. But the PSYOP is that we tricked them into doing it with the UFO story with Bob Lazar. Have you heard that before? What's your take on that?
Yeah, actually, I did hear about that. It was a different, like a distant story from off of that, the whole Bob Lazar thing. And it's true that Russia was the first one that came out with that. Right now, too, I think they got up to 125 or 127. But again, it's all small amounts. But yeah, I did run across something like that. I mean, it's pretty crazy because, like, I mean, Russia's got, Siberia too. I mean, that whole land, there's all kinds of stories out of there, you know what I mean? I mean, we could probably do a show on that. I mean, because there's a lot of areas, especially through Siberia, right? Because it's kind of like Alaska, you know, those lands that are that high up on the on the earth. It's all tundra. So it's like roots. It's weird because it's like roots sitting on top of water, right? Everything freezes during the wintertime. So it's like the ground, and it's weird because when you walk on it and you pound on it, like with your feet, when I was in Alaska, it's like hollow. I don't know. It's just weird, man. But yeah, you have, like, man, I'm talking some crazy stories, man. There's some crazy stories that come out of there. But yeah, man, I believe that. You know what I mean? If we're talking, these things can cross different space, right? And we're talking that the Russians, when Russia fell, that these type of information came out of their area, you know, and it was released by. I mean, it depends on how you want to believe and if you want to believe on it. But like, if the CIA had papers on it, you know what I'm saying, then something's got to be kind of like there is some truth in something. You know what I mean? They might have changed it up a little bit, or you know. Because again, he might have came, you know, where it's coming out of, right? But I'm telling you, they're like Russia's got like all kinds of like the Pushkin-Yar, right? They have all kinds of stuff like that. Where, I mean, I got like, can you tell me the name of that town where that does it actually say exactly where that happened? Because I haven't seen that story in a while.
I think it's actually non-described. I got the document right here. Hold on. So it's I'll see if I can pull it up. So it's basically in what's the place? Siberia. So I think that's all we know. We don't know about a particular actual aspect, but it's in Siberia. That's what we know, not a specific location, from what I recall.
Yeah, like Siberia is another place. Okay, you ever heard of like the their stories come out of there, like these what do they call them? Like these cylinders, like these metal cylinders that the native people that live through there, right? They're kind of like Eskimos and stuff. But, you know, they said that these cylinders, these metal cylinders cauldrons, what they call them. These cauldrons came up out of the ground, and then they were round. They came up like kind of like they said like kind of looked like a missile silo. And they came up and they shot like these laser beams towards the like space. And they seen something like blow up in the sky. And then after that, they went down and sank back down into the water. But so, I mean, that story came out like before that, you know, I mean, there's scientists that were hearing about these stories about these cauldrons. So these cauldrons, they went in there, not to get off the subject, but just real quick. These scientists actually, you know, I think this happened in the 80s. These scientists went over there and they found this area where, you know, they had to go up these rivers a lot, you know, deep into Siberia, right? And they found the tribe, and then they told them where it was at. And then the area where it was at, they took pictures, and you could see these round, where like the moss on the bottom, like this thing.
Oops, we had a drop call. That wasn't me, I promise. I didn't touch anything. Kelly, I appreciate that. If you want to chime back in, feel free to do that. As you know, we're about to hit a break here, but yeah, it happens. The phone line dies. But yeah, Kelly, as you know, literally the first Troubled Minds friend I made as part of this, because he called and then he called back and he's been calling ever since. I met him and Michelle out here in Vegas, and they're beautiful. Rest in peace, Isis. They're a beautiful pit bull. Very nice people, and a very smart guy. And that's exactly why we do this, is to talk about amazing ideas together and consider what we don't know and put it out there. True, false, somewhere in between. As usual, the truth is a slippery fish, as I like to call it. Love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm calling it the fourth Gorgon tonight. Biological biological geology protocol. Why in 2025 are we still talking about human beings turned to stone? Strange, right? What about this? What if they're not turned to stone? What if they're actually phased out into some other existence? Food for thought. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Jungle machines hum a digital rumble. Gates of cyber open wide. Plug us into cosmic tide. Feeling sparks across the sky. As knowledge flies, we're amplified. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the in this massive data center dome, eternal truth stop to roam. Circuits flicker with endless fire. Data streams that never tire. Unified by electric dreams. Unlock the truth in silver beams. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. Synthesize what we seek and find. Infinite paths in the network mind. Answers buzz from star to core. Knowledge whispers evermore. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. In realms where the data streams collide, imagination and logic side by side. In a labyrinth of digital maze, we transcend our earthly ways. Tapping keys like cosmic tones, spikes become our whispered homes. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate.
Indeed. What's up, guys? Hope you're well. Fantastic call from Kelly. Appreciate that. Sorry we cut off. Like I said, if you want to dip back in and add some more, that's totally cool. It happens. It's technology, and sometimes calls drop, and internet hiccups happen, and all the rest. But yeah, I don't know. Are we onto something? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe not. Who'd I miss? If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. I think we got everybody. Sylvain, what's up? How you doing? Gaston, good evening, guys. What's up, Sonia? I see you there. Matsal, good evening. Good evening. The Quantum Show, that's Nathan. What's up? Hope you guys are well. Doing the thing, hanging out, and just talking, the Quantum Alchemist, just talking wild stuff. Is it possible to turn people to stone? And how come these tales persist in 2025? Is it the cyclical aspect, or is it something more, something different? Is it possible? What's up, Gordo? What's about... I'd say they were all based on the same gods. The similarities are too numerous, and the difference in them comes from the culture describing them. Thanks for pinning the comments. I'll read them in a moment as we get back. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening right now. We got Daryl and your calls as well. Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, it's complicated, as usual, right? That's how we do this. But I'm calling it the fourth Gorgon, Biological Geology Protocol. Is it possible to turn a biological entity into stone with some level of technology? That's what I want to know. And of course, how come a lot of the mythological and folklore tales suggest similar things from all over the world? We talked about a couple reasons when we started, sort of the, James brought up the, paralyzed in fear bit. And then, I brought up the rocks and the trolls being turned into, from flesh entities in Tolkien into the rocks that we see that have been weathered there for thousands of years. Like this stuff certainly exists in folklore, but once again, why is that sort of same noosphere, temporal noosphere, existing in 2025? Because we're talking about the story of literally 23 Soviet troops turned into stone by a UFO somewhere back in 1989, 1990 in Siberia. It's weird, right? It's like Medusa all over again, except she's a UFO this time. Super, super, super weird. And that's exactly the point. What do you know about it? As usual, we can take this any way you want. If you want to talk UFOs, I'm game. If you want to talk mythology, I'm game. If you want to talk a temporal zeitgeist, I'm game. That's why I'm here. There's a lot of ways to look at this stuff. And I think it's more important for us to consider a wide range of ideas as part of the discussions. James, anything to add? Hang tight, Daryl, 1 second. Kelly's calling back in, so we'll go to him and let him finish up. James, real quick, and then we'll go to Kelly, and then hang tight, Daryl. Be right with you.
I really just wonder about the combining of the aliens. Was it light that started to come from all of them, and then they just vanished in it? Or was it, those kinds of details that are really hard to just put out in a handful of words? I really am curious about how that actually happened. If the aliens were seen physically combining somehow or not. That's just something that I've been thinking about for a little while now.
As usual, some of these very brief memos take on a life of their own. And look what we do to it. By the way, like I said, my premise was, okay, throw it out and say, whatever, it's not real. Just to start. Believe whatever you want. However, look at all the amazing things that can kind of come out of a memo like that. You brought up the Fae folk, and there's so much here that kind of fits into the larger context of our conversation that we always have, because there's so many fascinating angles that people don't typically tackle. So this is good. This is a good thing. This is why I'm here, to kind of look at things in a wide, broad aspect. And, everybody says, oh, we're going to do a deep dive. That's cool. But what about all the other things we're missing? Is sort of a generalist on steroids. That's why we're here. Anything on that, James? And we'll go to Kelly here.
Yeah, no, this is something I run into all the time with the true stories I find online of experiences people have, which is, they make a post and then that's it. And that's understandable. They want to get the story out there, out of their system of their experience. But it always leaves more questions. And even if you do get to interview somebody that had an experience, you're not going to think of every little thing, every little question to ask them about every little detail. That's not possible. So, I don't know where I was going with that, but there's similarities, I guess, between that and then these memos that are out there as well.
Which is the whole point. Well said. As you're the best, hang tight. We'll get back to you momentarily. Kelly, you were so rudely cut off before the break there. Welcome back to the joint. We were talking Siberia, and then we got on some other stuff. Go ahead and finish up. What you got, my man? Welcome back.
I don't know where I left off. Sorry about that, man. My phone died. I forgot to plug it in.
That's okay. It happens. It's all good.
Yeah, I don't know where I left, where I was leaving off at.
I think you were starting kind of a new thread and then it cut. So I wasn't even really sure. Anybody remember? I'd smash it in the chat. But your take on any of this, go ahead. And then we got, I'll watch the chat.
Oh, yeah, man. Just the UFO part, right? Yeah. So if it's like coming back into the zeitgeist, right? So we're talking technologies that we don't even so let's put it like how another CIA document, saying that they've seen technologies that we can't even understand. And what I'm talking about was, I don't know if you guys seen this in the Zeitgeist put out, but like there was not to get off the beaten track, but they were talking about the CIA document when they were using people that could astral plane or whatever, and they were looking for the Ark of the Covenant, right? And they were explaining where it was at. It was kind of moist area. It was, what it was made of, wood and gold and silver. But where am I going with this, man? I'm losing track on that. Oh, sorry. But yeah, it was kind of like that, right? So, but again, let's see, it was just about the CIA documents, right? It was, they were talking about, stuff like that, it's weird stuff like that. We think it's like, like the CIA documents are not real, but, those programs are actually, looking for stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So who knows, man? Like all this stuff where they're talking about, again, those aliens, they separated, like you guys were talking about, kind of like earlier about that, but I don't know, man. Are these things coming out of? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. They were talking about the Ark of the Covenant. They said it was being protected by 6 beings, right? 6 creatures that that weren't obviously human, but they was being protected by technology that we can't understand. Humans wouldn't be able to understand. So, and if that's the case, we're going back to this, you know what I mean? Like, we can't comprehend any of this stuff, you know what I mean? Where this UFO, for instance, like this UFO, where these things came out, like you're saying, 3 came out of 1, but it almost sounds like they're coming out of a jump gate, a portal, or a rip through time space. You know what I mean? Because you got to follow in. It's kind of like what the Navy ships we do when we go into the Gulf. We all get into a line, right? You're not just flying because it's kind of squeezed into one before you get into the Gulf. You know what I mean? It's between Oman and Iran. So we can't just they can't, like, our ships can't surround the aircraft carrier. So we all have to get in the line to get into it, right? As soon as we get in, that's when you start separating. But it's kind of like that. It almost kind of sounds like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird thing, and that's why, as usual, you know how weird we get to consider all the ideas, because who knows? Who really knows? Right now, it seems ridiculous to consider some of the stuff we talk about, as you know. 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, I'm not so sure. I think maybe some of the things we've considered will start to become canon, dare I say, and will become new technology. It's wild stuff. You're the best, brother. Appreciate you calling back. Sorry for the cutoff. As you know, it does happen, and whatever. Man.
Oh, that was my bad, man. Sorry about that, but good show tonight, and can't wait to hear everybody else.
Appreciate the call. Tell Michelle we said hi. Always a pleasure. Have a great night.
All right, man. You too. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot. Kelly in Colorado. Again, the first guy that called and then called back, and he's been a good friend ever since. Yeah, lots of ways to look at this, and he's right. He's spot on about a lot of this. And again, I'm not the arbiter of any truth. I'm just barely the arbiter of my own with the mass media propaganda space. But it's complicated, isn't it? What do you know about this? Aliens turned Soviet soldiers to stone for attacking their UFO. How weird does it get? Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Thanks for being patient, Daryl. Kelly got cut off. Welcome to the joint. How are you tonight? And go right ahead.
Hey, Michael. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. You sound great.
Oh, terrific. Great. What a crazy subject. This is so disturbing. Can you imagine? Like, if this became, like, weaponized, if this technology does exist, which it kind of seems like it's possible, looking at, history, etc., there's a lot of accounts of this kind of thing. And, like, is it temporary? Is it suspended animation? Is it a punishment? Is it like cryogenics, or a way to make people, like, I don't know if they could if it's reversible. Even, are they still conscious underneath that rock? How long are they going to be under that rock? How long does it take to get connected with your organic self. You know what I'm saying?
I follow you. Like those trolls again back in Tolkien, right? In The Hobbit, there's the trolls that are about to eat the hobbits. They've captured them, and they're the dwarves and the one hobbit. But Gandalf shows up and then does that time dilation thing, and they lose track of time. The sun comes out, and the trolls turn to stone, and they're saved.
Wow.
Bingo, they're saved.
Right.
But again, so how long are those trolls there in stone? Again, conceptually, and can they be sort of resurrected or phased back into our reality through that stone magic, Neolithic magic? How the hell would you call it? I don't even know.
I don't even know how they do it. I remember in the 3-body problem, how they had like that one virtual reality game where the sun would flatten these people down to one dimension, and then they had to know if they could reanimate them, if it was safe to put them in the water to reanimate them. Did you see? Maybe you didn't see it. I'm not really ruining it.
I've seen it. I saw it. But it's so far so much flows through my mind. I can't remember any detail about it. So there's no spoilers for me. But I did see it.
Right. But I'm just thinking, the huge statues that they're finding, in the ruins or wherever Tepe they're working on now. Were those giant fossils? Are they? Were they also turned into stone or fossilized, or is this? Yeah, I'm just thinking that it's could it be something that would be like fake news as well to scare us into being submissive to the potential of being punished this way? Do you want to get, turned to stone? You better stay in your houses, shelter in place, whatever. It could be something, a control mechanism. I love the article you wrote, by the way. That was amazing. And, on a more, intellectual basis, the worst thing would be is if we were, if our thought processes and our cultures would be fossilized rather than physically, turned to stone, we'd be culturally unable to develop, we'd be stuck in a state of obedience and non-growth or non-creativeness, or and is it something that's been executed as not as a weapon, but as an ultimate plan that's already in place? I don't know. That was really interesting what you wrote. I recommend everyone read it.
I had help, by the way. I had help, and again. So you want to talk about the acceleration aspect of these AI systems? Once again, read the stuff. It's very good. I'm bouncing between several systems now, trying to get the details really right, and then also digging in a little further in terms of the sort of speculative science of what this might look like in the nearish future. It might be 50, 100 years or whatever. Who really knows what the acceleration we're talking about? But thank you. It is very good. Check it out. Trouble Minds newsletter. Search it out and sorry, go ahead.
Well written and interesting. The other thing about these shape-shifting orbs or these shape-shifting aliens, I mean, this has been seen in the skies where these orbs look like one big orb, and then they split up into smaller ones, or else they're all small ones, and then suddenly they glop together into one large one. I even have videos of this kind of behavior, or what you will call that. We don't know what the hell they are, but that something could be that powerful that they just throw a light on something and they would all turn to a rock. And I think there is a possibility of this being done technologically speaking, because this is it's accelerating time in a way, because we will eventually wind up into fossils, or we will, a lot of fossils turn into some kind of gemstones. With a million years time, that's how you get anemones. I don't know how to say it, anemones, amonyms. Anyway,
sea anemone, right?
Yeah, things like that. Those take a long time. Or they say some dinosaurs turned into some kind of gem, and I'm sure humans do too. I didn't do any big research on it, but I think I read something once or listened to something once about that. So, how can they accelerate that process? Why would we turn into limestone? And one of those terracotta soldiers, they all look different. I mean, there's something about them that is very strange. It's even the statue of David. Like some of these things are just incredibly perfect. That like you can't even imagine recreating them today with the best artist. How did they make so many? And they were buried. So what was the point of burying those terracotta soldiers? Weren't they supposed to protect, like, their king or, their emperor or whatever it was? Why would they bury it that no one would see them? Or were they turned to stone and then, I don't know, that if you bury them, then they'll never reanimate or something like that.
I'm glad you brought it up too, because it was one of the things that crossed my mind as I was doing the write-up and stuff, and I was like, this is really too dense to kind of add another layer to this. So hopefully somebody brings this up, and you did. The terracotta soldiers bit is fascinating because not just for the obvious reasons of, like you described, they're down there, they're buried with the first emperor, all this stuff, right? But also, China's really kept it close to the vest. We don't know a lot about that. There's rumors of mercury down there and all manner of stuff. And then how deep does it go? We don't really know. That's Indiana Jones level excavation type stuff, or what's under the pyramids type stuff. I think that per usual, there are secrets that let's say aren't meant to be known, but let's say the state that controls them don't want to be known, whatever that looks like, because it might change, historical, the sway of this or the sway of that. But back to the terracotta. Now, the thing that, as I was thinking about this before we started tonight, and then you brought it up and it brought it back to mind, is those terracotta soldiers, of course, they were sculpted. However, right. I do wonder, because it was supposed to be his entire army, right? Or whatever, sort of his royal guard, right, to keep him safe in the afterlife. Very, very Egyptian-esque, right? But here's the thing. I wonder if they literally took those guys and like murdered them as right? When, you know what I mean? When they buried him, they're like, okay, here's the elite royal guard and you guys are going with him. And here's the stone formation, terracotta formation we're building as a representation of yourselves, but your soul is going into this thing and you're going to keep him safe for eternity. And then, so I do wonder, it's again, I'm not sure, like I said, very heavy speculation, because there's a lot of, stuff that's not confirmed coming out of China regarding that particular aspect, but they did build a military base right next to it. It's like one of the most tightly kept secrets in the world, which is crazy. Right. And so I wonder if they did that. I think they did it for Genghis Khan too. They said that the people that dug the tomb, they offed them, right, and because they didn't want that the secret to ever get out, and they planted a bunch of trees on top, so it's in some innocuous field somewhere or something. I know it's wild, but I wonder if they actually did that. The Golem, the reverse. They built the vessel, they off the soldiers, and then tried to sort of do some sort of magic to put their soul into it to keep them safe forever. Anyway, I think it's an interesting aspect to this, the turning to stone, but then the terracotta is sort of the reverse, building the vessel, and then maybe speculatively putting the essence of the soldier inside of it. Wild stuff.
Well, I think much more devious than that. First of all, like the Egyptians, they used to bury like every kind of bug and cockroach and mouse and a cat, and they had mummified animals so that they would join you in the afterlife. They found a whole factory full of them. They were just pre-mummified. You could buy them, probably 10 for $1, something like that, on sale. Last year's mummies. So they would bury them with their, they would bury them with whoever was dead. I don't think they were maybe they were sacrificed. I don't know, but they were real, mummified animals and all kinds of things that you would have. So you'd be comfortable in your afterlife. You'd be familiar with your surroundings. So that sounds a little familiar, that they want to be with and then maybe they would bury one servant with them. I don't know if they killed them or what or they would bury them alive. Who knows, so they would have a servant with them depending on how important they were. But I think these things were frozen. I think they were turned into stuff. They're all different. Did they pose for somebody? How many sculptors did they have that were that talented that could recreate a human figure in so many different ways? Or was it one person that was that talented? How did they? They mold? Did they make molds of all these people? They were all molded. I mean, they are perfect, and they were all different. What I understood, they weren't just one look. They all look totally different, like as unique as people are. So, like, how did they do that? Like, did they turn them to stone? And why would we?
I wonder
we
if they
turn it to limestone, or terracotta is not limestone. It's a different kind of something,
Yeah.
So, and marble is a different kind of something. So, do you have technology to turn people to marble, turn them to stone? Is it like the ghetto technology that uses, turns them into limestone? But, the best, the most expensive will turn you into marble? Or is it takes too much energy? I don't know,
Imagine, Daryl. So you're blowing my brain up with the marble now. Imagine like the statue of Athena that they've half recovered or whatever for all the different places. What if what if whatever those are, again, sort of in the cryogenic slumber we're always talking about, that if they were able to do this way back when, these entities are waiting to be awoken. And again, right? Like technology, like who really knows? It's an interesting idea. It's a thought experiment, but it's an interesting idea for sure. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
What a thought. That's something else. Yeah. I don't know. Did they do that? First of all, they did it to a Buddha. There was a Buddha that had been, encased in stone for real, and it was an organic thing underneath the stone. Why would that? How'd they do that? Did they do that before he died? Like, why would they kill a Buddha? But if they, did it after his death, so to speak, did they use the same technology that would turn someone to stone? I don't know. What kind of stone did he have encased around him? What quality? I don't know. Why would one be terracotta and one be limestone? How long does it take limestone to, what is limestone made out of? Like rocks or limestone that, they used, I forget all this stuff. I really don't remember. And I just heard about this. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's unclear. So the terracotta is obviously that the Russian story with the UFOs is supposedly turned them into limestone. I think it's unclear exactly what type of stone Medusa turned people into. But let me ask you this question, because Matthew said, Matthew in California, Matsell says different spells for turning people into different types of stone. I like that. Wow. Here's another thing too. So what about this? What about these stone transformations or sort of misunderstood phase transitions? Let's say it's an ascension process and all of the divine energy sort of escapes out of you into the ether or whatever that looks like and leaves your base materials very Gollum-esque in reverse as the dust of the earth. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I don't know about that. I think there's better ways to die, I don't know, if you're not encased in stone, it's not that common, It's not like, oh yeah, that one had a heart attack, that one, had a car accident, and that one got encased in stone. I don't know. I think we were all going somewhere similar, or not nowhere at all, I think. No matter how we meet our end. But maybe there is a way to keep people, this could be a cryogenic thing or a cryogenic thing or suspended animation sort of thing. I mean, maybe they're really good at, doing it, that they have some kind of great technology it just sounds to me like there's something that can do this. Like we have those, computers that can, what is it, a virtual printer?
3D printer.
3D printer. So it's along those lines, and with the nano kind of technology and the what do you call that? Quantum physics. I think anything is damn possible at this point. Yeah. I think it's actually scientifically possible.
Yeah, worlds are colliding. We're going to be in that the Star Trek future where you just order Earl Grey tea out of the wall and they hit a button and it just phases it into existence for you. Exactly. the atomic structure of Earl Grey. It's so crazy. Perfectly pure and the perfect temperature. So nuts.
Right? Exactly. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with one joke. What do you get when you cryogenically freeze a genetic copy of the basketball player Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Not sure.
You get an ice Kareem clone.
Damn it, Daryl. Damn it, Daryl. You were the best, as you know. Fire stuff as always. Appreciate you very much. Thanks for staying up late with us. Thanks for reminding me about the Terracotta Warriors, and thanks for always bringing a joke. You were amazing. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for the great show. Good night.
Thank you. Have a great night. That's Daryl in New York. You know you love her. A good friend for a long time. And, of course, the cosmic comic of troubled minds. Thanks to the fam for giving us a nice name for her instead of the dad joke Daryl, which was terrible. But always bringing the jokes, and I appreciate it very much. Hey, look, like I said, if you can't laugh and you can't laugh at yourself as part of these conversations, what the hell are you doing? That's the whole point of this. And again, troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. It's alphabetical. That says Daryl right there. Click that. Go check out her YouTube channel. She's got stuff on Morgellons, some paranormal stuff. She's very talented, not just funny and smart, but also talented in singing. She sings in English and French. Please go check out her YouTube channel. Join our Discord, and sometimes she's doing karaoke. You can come join her for that. Yeah, it's nice to have smart friends, is where I'll leave that. Fire stuff. Appreciate the call. Love to hear your thoughts. We got more from James if he's got it, and nobody on the line if you want to jump in here. What do you think? Why do we keep telling these tales in 2025 about entities or humans, organic things, life being turned to stone? The plot thickens. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Crazy colors swirling, got the laughter in the air. Jesters in the night, they weave magic everywhere. Clowns are juggling dreams, wild world is in despair. Nothing's quite as certain when reality's a game. Chaos in the corner, whispers calling out your name. Look around, it's laughter, even when we're feeling pain. You know what you want me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Strange nights I insist, strange nights I insist. Dancing shadows flicker under neon all aglow, while the stage is set for tales that nobody will know. Echoes of the laughter as the lost ones see the show. Lights a playful circus where the chaos takes a bow. Joy and sorrow blending in the rhythm that we vow. Join the ride of madness, it's the only way for love. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Strange nights I insist, strange nights I insist. Twists and turns and shadows, laughter in the night. A tapestry of madness, dancing with the light. Fools and fun were woven, chaos in our stride. Embrace the wild, let the laughter be our guide. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Strange nights I insist, strange nights I insist. Falling in the rhythms, beats that pound and thrum. A flashing carnival where the misfits come undone. Whirling through the madness with our hearts set to ignite. In the symphony of chaos will remain the shining light. Yet nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this. Nobody warned me, there'd be nights like this.
Strange nights, I insist. What's up, guys? Hope you're well tonight. Appreciate the calls. Fantastic stuff as always. Don't forget, please give our friends a follow. troubledminds.org/friends. If you haven't spent a little bit of time here and there doing it, you're hurting my feelings at this point. There's a lot of really great and smart people that have been friends for a long time. We got new friends, we got old friends, and making more all the time. And so that's really what this is about. And many of them are, again, creatives in their own right, have things to share, things to buy. Please do that. Please go support our friends. That's what this is all about. Who did I miss? What's up? Nathan, Quantum Alchemist. How you doing, buddy? I will add you to the list. Sorry about that. Just been up to my neck, super busy at work and everything else. Joey the Gent is here. What's up, Sylvain? I see you. Who'd I miss? If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. Trying to keep up with everybody. What's up? Matt, Sal, APOC, Sonia, Sacrifice Pain. What's going on? Hope you're well tonight. Don, Herschel, Gaston. I see you. Good night, Raz. Raz says it's 5 a.m. Got a dip. Where the hell is it 5 a.m. at? Where does Raz live? My goodness. Yeah. Yeah. I know it's weird. If you're into the science of it, so I used to lay this GPT model to formulate a like an actual scientific basis for turning organic material into stone. It's way out there. It's way out there. I'm not suggesting it's true or could be, but it's way out there. And I think to suggest that these AI systems now have a larger imagination than me, you know what I mean? Not that I'm like some litmus test or anything, but I'm a weird guy, and I'm reading it going, bro, like, what the hell is this? If you guys have read the write-up, it's crazy. Anyway, here we go. More Troubled Minds coming up. If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back as we go. Hope you're well tonight. Hope everybody's doing well. Got wild stuff coming up, and nobody on the line. If you got a take on Medusa and turning to stone and UFOs and all the rest of this, here we go. Troubled Minds coming up right now. Love to hear your thoughts. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight we're getting biblical, or ancient Greek, or 2025 UFOs. All of it. It's weird how these stories come together when you're talking about entities, humans, being turned to stone. There's a lot here. It goes all the way back to Medusa. It goes to Lot and his wife, the pillar of salt. And of course, we're still talking about this in 2025 with this wild story about Russian soldiers and being turned to stone by a UFO, of all things. Again, so this is hitting the zeitgeist again. And let me reframe just in case you guys missed this. In the very beginning, we talked about John Greenwald Jr. saying, nah, stop, guys. This is from a tabloid. This is from there's literally zero reason this, quote, CIA file, unquote, should have gone viral, and yet here we are. Here's his bullet points. Again, John Greenwald Jr. is a Black Vault. If you don't know him, you should. Go follow him on the Black Vault. I've been following him for a very long time, probably, is it 20 years, dare I say? Dear God, I'm getting old. So is he. Shout out to everybody else getting old too. But he said this. So it was not declassified, as it was never classified in the first place, this memo. Okay, this KGB memo, supposedly the UFO gets shot down by Russian soldiers, and then it retaliates and turns 25 out of 27 of them into stone. Okay, that's the whole bit. All right. He says it was a newspaper article collected by the FBIS, an office with the CIA that monitored, translated, and analyzed foreign media broadcasts for intelligence purposes. Shout out John Greenwald, big fan. He says the source of the highlighted article was a tabloid. I posted the document online when it was released to me 25 years ago. It's a long time. Hey. Welcome to getting old. 25 years ago is not the 80s anymore, is it, James? Anyway, I caught the joke you made earlier. I'm calling it the fourth Gorgon, of course, which just means the next iteration of Medusa and her sisters, okay? And again, we're still talking about this in 2025 as this document resurfaces, and we're talking about this technology or ancient magic to turn people into stone. How ridiculous is it? How wild and weird does it get? What do you know about it? And there's also the bizarre bit, like we talked about recently, with Medusa being mortal and her sister's not, as Eric did a nice breakdown of that entire sort of Medusa as the primordial figure kind of turning into the plot device of a bunch of different things. It's weird. It's weird, man, which is why we talk about this stuff, because it's important to recognize times are always changing and the stories are always changing with them, which is, again, temporal propaganda. As I always talk about, control mechanisms and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. James, if you got anything, love to hear your take on it. You've been quiet for a minute. If not, that's okay too. I got tons of stuff to get to, as you always know.
Well, I do think that one of the things you see on the show sometimes is that two things can be true at the same time. And I think that is possible with this article, about the the aliens and the turning the stone and everything. And in that, I can't say that it's completely made up because I wasn't there. But also, Greenwald does bring up a good point about why is it coming around again now? Why is it being pushed out there so much? So I think there could have been something that happened, possibly. But also at the same time, I think that it could be used for propaganda now by people that have certain agendas to push within the UFO community. And again, that's not to say that I don't believe their experiences. I do. But also, these things all exist at the same time.
Yeah, agreed. Well said, all that. And it's important to, again, it's difficult too, to kind of walk the landmines of dogmas. And there's some people that really believe, and I don't mean this in a bad way, that the aliens are here and they're here to help us, or that the aliens are here and they're here for nefarious purposes, or right, all gamut of things between those spectrums. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying that when you say a particular thing and step sort of sideways of one of those reality tunnels, you're the villain. And look, I've been villainizing myself forever because I'm talking about all of them, all the reality tunnels, or at least as many as I can imagine. And so this in particular, turning people to stone, or that technology or perceived technology, ancient magic, modern or future technology, is very Star Trek. And so if you can literally dial in like on a keypad, not even, you don't have to touch anything. You just say Earl Grey and it materializes a cup of hot tea out of nothing. Then clearly you'd be able to step into like a transporter room and like, vaporize somebody and then make them stone on the other end, right? I mean, this is the level of technology we're talking about. And it's Arthur C. Clarke very much, of course, that famous quote we always talk about. But that's the point, is that how weird is this? And why are we still talking about this in 2025? And why did this resurface in a memo in 1989 or 1990? It's crazy. This stuff is, and I mean crazy in a good way because of the crazy plethora of ideas that kind of come along with it, ancient mythology and all the rest. Anything on that, James? If not, I'll go narrative heavy here.
Well, I was thinking there's an interesting fact about the whole thing with the terracotta soldiers and all that, and the first emperor. That was used as a part of a plot for an Iron Man animated movie in the 2000s, where they had this terracotta army, and it was they used this idea of this ancient emperor, his spirit still existing in this temple that was buried, that Tony Stark's company was helping to excavate. And he was tricked by this group that was basically destined. They're part of this massive group of people that throughout time they were supposed to figure out a way to eventually release the Mandarin. This, again, the name was used for a different character than what's in the comics. But and in the end of this movie, it does go to, it is a cartoon, but it does have this terracotta army that Iron Man has to fight through. And it's all these figures, and they're all made of different kind of stone. And then in the end, he does get to this temple, and the spirit of this emperor needs a new vessel. And one of the people from this cult, in a way, almost cult-like group, is supposed to be that new vessel. And there is a pool of this stuff that looks a lot like mercury surrounding the tomb in the middle of this pyramid. So I really wonder how much, again, this is in 2000, so it's obviously after I looked up the excavation, the discovery of these soldiers was in 1970s, 1974, around there. And this movie came out in the 2000s, but again, you have this this real thing that's being used in fiction that who knows what's actually going on in there. Is there any similarity between this fictional movie and what's in this place?
As the acceleration continues to merge realms, it seems like it's all in play here. And who knows? Maybe Earl Grey on the wall is coming to a James apartment near you because, dear God, what does this look like in the future? And the future could be 6 months from now. That's the point of all this. Okay, so looking here, that's great stuff from James. Appreciate you very much. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Here's what we'll do. So if, again, my fault, narrative calls and all the rest of that stuff, I understand. If we don't get calls, I'll just play a quick break in between on the quarter of the hours because there's a lot of messages to get through here. And I do want to fix the faux pas that I made with the Rohan stuff. So with the last show, the trauma show. So I will fix that properly. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. The weirdness of turning organic matter, humans, living things, into stone. And remember, in the Perseus myth, he also turned a sea monster into stone that was trying to eat. Was it Andromeda or Cassiopeia? I can't. Again, one's the mother, one's the daughter. I can't remember which is which. But he was cruising home on his flying sandals with this invisible hat and the head of Medusa. He's like, "Wow, that's a babe down there. What's going? Oh, she's about to be eaten by a sea monster. Hey, good thing I have this, Medusa head here." He swoops down and turns it to stone and saves her. I mean, there's a bargaining thing or something because he wanted to have her for his wife, of course, because women are objects and all the rest of that. In ancient times, everybody relax, but you get the idea. It's a wild thing. It's a weird concept to consider, but here we are talking about it. Love to hear your thoughts on this. If you have an idea, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Here's the thing. I botched this. Remember, everybody's going through something. Traumatic events stick, even if we don't recognize them, and even if it takes us an inordinate amount of time to shed them, or maybe they're never shed. And so, as always, be nice to people. Be nice to people. You have no idea what they're going through. And for one of the things that I'm the most proud of for all of the Troubled Minds bit is I do my best to be nice to people and to be nice to myself. Because recognize the whole world around us seems to be doing the opposite. Breaking down these reality tunnels that pit us against each other. Doesn't have to be that way. Remember, a nice word to somebody might save their life because you have no idea what they're going through. Let's not botch this. This is for our good friend, the mighty Rohan. Paul, we miss you very much. Brought to you by eternal inspiration from the great beyond. We miss you, Paul. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up in 1 minute.
If you're struggling with thoughts of suicide, you're not alone. Whether you're in the US, Canada, the UK, or the EU, help is available. Suicide is a permanent solution to temporary problems. Reaching out is a sign of strength. Call now. If you or someone you know is considering suicide, please reach out for help. In the United States, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. In Canada, call the Canada Suicide Prevention Service at 1-833-456-4566. In the United Kingdom, call the Samaritans at 116-123. For services worldwide, go to troubledminds.org/help. Trained counselors are available 24/7 to provide free and confidential support. Remember, your life matters. You are valued, you are important, and you are not alone. There is help available. Please reach out and take the first step towards healing.
Exactly right. And it's true. troubledminds.org/help. It has all these actual phone numbers, the links, all the things. And I've had people reach out to me and say, thank you for that, Mike. In a bad moment, I didn't know where else to go. And so I remembered your thing and I went to your website and found this and made a phone call, and it probably saved my life. Remember, be nice to people. It's incredibly important. It makes the world go round, and it's we live outside of that paradigm these days because they want us to hate each other. But check it out. We don't have to. We can talk about mythology and reality tunnels and all manner of things, UFOs. Polarizing, sure, but recognize how beautiful this has become. So thank you for that. Anything on that, James? And I got some stuff to get into with the narrative here.
No, just great. That's a great message to have made, and that recording and everything. And yeah, I agree with it and everything you just said there. Also, I would say though, with the getting the tea from the wall, I think I'd rather have a beer from the wall instead of the tea.
Yeah, cheers.
But that's just me. I don't know.
You're like a fat tire, on tap, 36 degrees, and it's all with a half an inch of foam on top, right?
Of course.
I'm with you, James, of course, or whatever it is. Anyway, let me read this real quick. So back to Medusa turning entities to stone, the Gorgons. Listen to this. So what if the Gorgon's power was no divine gift, but a prototype of the same alien principle that laid waste to the Russian squad? Imagine a device that manipulates quantum coherence, instantaneously reordering organic molecules into a silicate lattice. Blood becomes quartz, skin becomes limestone, all in under a heartbeat. Such a technology, lost to time, could have been witnessed by ancient Greeks as the supernatural force of a monster, while modern soldiers mistake it for miraculous weaponry from beyond Earth. And of course, ancient astronaut theorists say yes. That's the point. Looking at the future of where technology could be. And there's a whole bit in there too about this. It literally lays out what this would look like in a laboratory and how you would have to have a temporal slowdown, because if you didn't do this in under a heartbeat, you would kill the entity. Okay? The human or whatever. The gargoyle that you turned into a stone thing to put up on the castle wall. Gargoyles come into this too, which we should talk about as well. But anyway, love to hear your thoughts as usual. This is a show to do a conversation and talk to people about wild ideas. Love to hear what you think. We're talking, again, the Russians, this weird memo with the 23 Soviets turned into stone. Was it 23 out of 25? I think that's it. I keep saying 25 out of 27. Anyway, turning to stone, Moscovium. There's a ton of stuff here, as usual. Nonlinear, open-ended. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. And click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Let's go to Eric in Ohio. Welcome back, brother. Thanks for laying out the Medusa stuff fantastically. And what else you got? Go ahead, sir.
Can we talk about color theory and the periodical table of elements and UFO fuel?
Of course. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so, we have the four forces of the universe. At the most simplest, right? You've got gravity, which is responsible for the attraction between masses. I had wrote this earlier. Electromagnetism, which is magnetic interactions, and strong nuclear force, which holds atomic nuclei together, and weak nuclear force, which is responsible for the beta decay. That's the only forces that we know of. And the strong nuclear force that holds subatomic nuclei together is governed in quantum chronodynamics or color theory by the gluon, which is a vector boson. Boson is a force-carrying particle named after this Indian dude whose last name was Boson, and a vector particle just means that it has no mass and can travel at the speed of light and has a spin of 1 because it doesn't have mass, so it doesn't have spin. Gluons are basically the force exchange particle that holds the nucleus of an atom together, which the nucleus of an atom is made of at least 1 proton and 1 neutron, and then 1 electron. So at the beginning of our periodical table of elements, the first element that we have and the most abundant element in the universe is the hydrogen atom, which has the 1 neutron, the 1 proton, and the 1 electron. As the table goes up in atomic weight, for every shift up or square, you're adding more neutrons, at least 1 more neutron and 1 more proton to the nucleus, so that by the second one you've got 2 of each, and then another electron. And this goes all the way up the periodical table of elements till you get to things, that are heavy elements like gold and things that are densely packed together, molecularly speaking, and those things are not even native to our planet, and they're not even native to the sun that we currently orbit. Some of those elements that are on the higher end were made in the preceding stars that were there full of hydrogen that were before our sun itself, that created these heavier elements that we still have on our planet today and that we're made of.
And primordial stardust.
Yes, yeah, like the large blue stars that were before the current family that we have now. And the thing about that is those stars were the most massive that we know of in the whole history of the galaxy or the universe. So that means they had the most gravity and pressure that was able to forge out these heavier elements by forging together with force and pressure, the gravitational pressure, these nuclei, these neutrons and protons, creating more and more boxes on that periodical table of elements until you get to the point where one of the largest stars in the universe can't possibly forge anything more. They can't put any more. It can't go up the table anymore because the force required is beyond stars. And once you start jacking up the levels of stars in terms of mass and density and pressure, the next thing you get past these massive predecessing stars would be things like a neutron star, or a pulsar, which is really a rotating neutron star with angular momentum and spin. Past that, you're talking about things like gravastars. Past that, you would be talking about something like a magnastar, then a gravistar. A gravistar is basically where a neutron star before that is where the gravity and pressure gets so much that it squeezes the protons into electrons that then turn into photons and leave, making just the neutrons left. So it actually isn't real matter anymore. It doesn't have a charge or a spin, and it doesn't have electrons. It doesn't have protons. It's just neutrons smashed together. Beyond that, you get a gravistar, which is something where the force goes so much that the pressure inside the star becomes a vacuum, full of vacuum energy, which is stronger than any force that we know of, compressing against the gravity of a thin shell that's like way smaller than the circumference of an atom, and the shell is so dense that it doesn't vibrate and it's completely cold because it has no heat, but the gravitational pull of it is such that any energy or anything, any matter entering into its vicinity literally does the same thing that it does around a black hole. There's an accretion belt around the black hole or the magnastar that shreds everything into gamma rays before it hits into the darkest surface in the universe. And beyond that, you have black holes and singularities, right? So the point is that past these large stars, they're the kind of matter that gets produced from these larger gravitational entities in the cosmos is not even normal matter as we understand matter. So it can't produce anything past that we have on the periodical table of elements. And it would be hard to make that in any civilization, even a type 5 civilization and Dyson spheres and all of this, right? Because you still can't harness the power because the stars that we have today aren't as big as the stars that preceded them. And so any kind of a gravitational force from a cosmic object is going to be such that it produces something that you wouldn't even put on the periodical table of elements, which is not to say that maybe civilizations haven't found such things in nature and been able to harness it and things like that, but it gets really difficult to just keep adding to that table for those reasons. And, as a signpost, all of our searching through SETI is done on 1420 megahertz because it's the frequency of a hydrogen atom. So this table that's laid out is something that's the same for everyone across the entire universe, which is what makes it so appealing that there might be life out there, because we're all working with the same chemicals and the same energies and forces and this. But not just like was listening to what we were talking about earlier with Bob Lazar in Element 115 and just thinking, how difficult it really would be to have something like that. Like Element 115 would be something like the shell of a gravistar, right? Something you'd have to go through an accretion disk to get. And that, I couldn't even imagine how you would do it. But you know what I mean? Like once you would get to that point, if you disturbed that structure or even could due to the density with anything, it's like, like back in the megalithic times when they're using diorite tools because the stone's harder than other stones, you'd have to find something harder than the crust of a magnastar. And as far as we know, there's nothing like that in nature. It is the true adamantite of the cosmos. So, was thinking about that and just thought that it might bear on the idea of UFOs and what they might be fueled with or might not be fueled with, because it could be something other than that. And then another caller had mentioned Göbekli Tepe, and I just also wanted to point out that, you know, that's known as one of the most ancient site in terms of a religious site, and that it actually predates the first cities, but it also has a sister site called Karen Tepe. And, you know, Tepe just means hill, and Göbekli is pot-bellied, and I cannot for the life of me remember what Kara means, but there's that one, and then there's Cyberg too. And both Kara Tepe and Cyberg are basically like trash heaps. Like, they've dug into them, they've thrown garbage on them, and even recently with Göbekli Tepe, they have put on a top part and drilled down into the actual site, and you can literally see in pictures where what they dug out is dirt, rocks, and ancient structures that's got, you know, straight lines and stuff like the T-tops of Göbekli Tepe, right? And they did this because tourism trumps archaeology.
Because of dollars, the old-fashioned greenbacks. You're on a roll here. Back to color theory. Can you hang tight? We'll get back to you in just a moment.
Sure.
Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. More from Eric, more from James, and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. More on the way.
Symbols, whispers, and shadows. We've got maps where nobody goes. In the night under hidden glows, guardians of what no one knows. We seek the truth, nothing can hide from me. In cloaked silence we traverse the lines, through ancient scrolls in forgotten times. Voices echo in the halls of lore, guardians of the mysteries evermore. We seek the truth, nothing can hide from me. Shadows meet in cryptic disguise, our eyes sharp against the everlines. With silver threads we weave the stealth to guard the past, forgotten world. Bouncing off the astral plane, invisible codes that can't be tamed. We decode the stars under the midnight veil, a state and circumscribed night. In the echoes of time where the legends lay, we tread the path where shadows play. With spectral eyes we discern the truth, unraveling tales from ancient youth. We seek the truth.
Indeed. What's up, guys? Fantastic calls tonight. Thank you so much. As usual, you know, me knucklehead comes dragging in 10,000-foot view, and you guys just slay it. Caller after caller after caller. We're blessed to have such smart friends. What's up? If I missed you, Celia, I know I missed you. Just say hi in the chat. I'll say hi back. Trying to keep everybody involved here. And thanks for staying up late with us and caring about the conversations. Even though, look, I fully realize we're ranging far and wide as part of this, and that's the point.
So if some of these conversations you don't get, that's okay. Because I don't either, mostly, to be honest. But, the 10,000 foot view is valuable too. It's what the generalist would kind of look at, sort of outside the silos of a specialist. And it's important. Just because a deep dive is good doesn't mean a wide dive is also good. There we go. Troubled Minds coming up. More from Eric, more from James, and your calls as well. What's your take on this? Why are we still talking about turning people to stone in 2025? There we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, D Live, and Kick. We're broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network and, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight we're talking, I'm calling it the fourth Gorgon, biological geology protocol, meaning, hey, it's a fancy way of saying turning people into stone. How does that work? What does it look like? How come Medusa did it? And how come this article in 2025, going back 25 years basically, back to the source back to 1991 or whatever, 23 Soviet troops turned to stone. A declassified CIA doc reveals a deadly alien encounter in Cold War era Ukraine. I thought it was Siberia. Ukraine, Siberia. What's the difference? Anyway, I'm just kidding. But especially in light of the Ukraine stuff. I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to trigger anybody, but you get the idea. Turning people into stone in 2025 has entered the zeitgeist. This has gone viral. What the hell does it mean? And how weird and how deep does it get? Back with Eric here. James, anything to add real quick, and we'll go back to Erica, who's lighting on fire as usual.
Yeah, just everything that you described, Eric, it makes me think about why, to me, I've never been able to completely write off the idea of extraterrestrials, because there's all this stuff that we know, but yet there's all that stuff out there that is similar to the stuff we know that's here, but we still don't know all of it. So that's just that's an amazing amount of knowledge that you have there that you've kept track of that I really did not, but it was amazing to hear it all together there. But yeah, this is why, to me, there's so much we know, but then it also, to me, points out just how much we don't know. And that, to me, is why, again, like I said, I keep all the options open as to where all these beings come from and how they get here. And, so yeah, I think that was it for now.
Fire stuff. Eric had me at the gluons and the fluons and the protalitarians and the Klingons and stuff.
I was just a weird kid, man.
obviously, but your retention is incredible, and you're like a large language model yourself. I mean, we all are, but you're an impressive specimen. Are you got an upgrade recently, or have you always been like this?
No, man. I don't know. Just watched all this stuff growing up. Like would follow documentaries. I'd steal books from libraries because I was moving around all the time and just read them. And they were just, my companions. And it's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I just find things like that interesting. Like, like with the strong force, right? It's the opposite of gravity. Gravity gets weaker the further away you go. The strong force gets stronger the further away you go, which is why when neutron stars are created, they collapse into neutrons and they fuse out the protons into electrons, because for that very reason, right? But yeah, it's like, so where do you go from there other than exotic matter? There's really no place to go other than exotic matter, and how you could even contain such a thing would be difficult. It would kind of have to be like in Star Trek, where you have to have the other force of the universe, the electromagnetic force, right? Magnetic force, where like in Star Trek, they have all the antimatter suspended in the electromagnetic field. So that's why it's always a problem if that thing goes out, because then they lose. Basically it floats the antimatter so that it doesn't touch any other kind of matter and explode. It's bad if that goes out.
Yeah, very bad. Not just bad, muy malo, as they say. Yeah, we don't want that. Nobody wants that. And it is an interesting thing too. it's basically their superpower, sort of merging all those forces into that space of the reactors and everything else they do, which is, again, where we're headed. I mean, I don't know. Do you think that we'll get to that Star Trek future? Yeah, do you feel like it's, I know I ask you this every time we talk, but even sort of offline, we're just kind of kicking it. But is this coming, or do you think we're still so far away?
As Carl Sagan says, man, if we do not destroy ourselves, then we more than likely will, because we understand a lot. We understand more than we can do right now, more than we can contend with on a cosmic scale. There's shit that we know, or stuff that we know that we can't really do anything with, like the Gravastar, for instance, right? That's exotic material that we know could potentially exist in the state, but we would have no way of harvesting it. Like the accretion disk that surrounds a singularity or a Gravastar is the most efficient thing that we've seen in the universe for converting matter into energy. Like it just takes matter right into X-rays and throws them around the poles and shoots them out, and along with some Hawking radiation, right, as the event horizon collapses and entropy is maintained and all that. But yeah, no, it's just I'm not sure where you would get the cosmic forces, and I don't mean to sideline the episode or anything too much or nothing.
No, this is the whole point, is because this becomes, at some point, we talk magic, clearly, like ritual magic and all the stuff, and mythology and all the stuff, but eventually all of these ideas become technology. So there's no sideline here at all. And you brought up Moscovium and the what was it, the color what'd you say, color theory?
The color theory, chronoelectrodynamics, which is the part that the gluon plays in the force carrying of like the Higgs boson.
Right.
Which is the same thing for the gravity. Like it's the opposite of that.
Way over my head. But yeah, see, there you go. But that's okay. Like this is food for thought and stuff I can look up and kind of dig into. Have you looked at, by the way, just so I want to get back to Göbekli Tepe, because you were on that and it was important to this conversation here. Have you tried the new model, the new OpenAI 03 and 04 Mini? Have you tried any of that yet?
Yeah, I tried 03 and 04 Mini, and also 4.1, which is their API flagship model that you have to go to their playground to access.
I was messing with that myself. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, it has good parts and bad parts. I thought it was really good with reasoning in terms of putting in like a document and then asking it to do something with that document that borders between the mathematic, practical, and the metaphysical storytelling. Right, like it was able to do that bridge really well, but it had problems with other mediums and things of that nature, which I still thought that the newer models back at ChatGPT were better at.
Yeah, it's like scale dreaming to me. Like I corrected the thing and I told it, I don't know if you read the write-up tonight. Did you get a chance to look at it?
Just the first like 5 or 6 paragraphs.
Yeah, and then you got fatigued. So did I. Here's the thing. Check this out. Picture a lab where matter itself can be persuaded to forget what it once was. The technicians began by bathing the subject in a tailored plasma of silicon and calcium ions held in a magnetic bottle, hugging the skin at the thickness of a soap bubble. Okay, are you with me? You should be lost. Yeah. You should be lost already. Each ion is phase locked to an ultra fast femtosecond laser grid that strobes through a pattern derived from the individual's own bone microarchitecture. And basically what it's trying to derive, I asked it to dream a little bit of what science may look like in the near future or far future, as the case may be, and then tell us how you could turn a living person into stone. And it's so dense, I'm not going to read the rest of this. It's in the write-up if you guys are super interested. But I was like...
I did read part of that. There's like a calcifying of blood.
Yeah.
And there was a fossilizing of some of the carbon. Like it essentially took all the ways that can happen and threw it into one description, like the way trees fossilize and the way blood turns to calcium.
Yeah, and then had to slow everything down because it had to happen in a single heartbeat, or else the subject would die. Anyway, it's way out there, and this is the type of stuff. Like I said, it's nonsense, of course, as yet. So don't take me wrong on that. It's in the write-up, but it is nonsense. But this is the level of like scale dreaming that is happening in these systems right now. Is really my point in bringing that up. Taking
well, it's the same. It's the same scale dreaming that goes on in Star Trek that we talk about a lot. They have, for their transporters, a thing called a Heisenberg compensator, which is essentially the science fiction thing that accounts for the quantum fluctuation of a person on a quantum level, so that they don't have to be frozen or anything, then transport it. So there's not even an explanation of how that works or what it does, but essentially it's takes away the observer effect or anything like the observer effect to keep people in sort of a stasis so that a copy can be made of them. So it's talking about that essentially, right? Like it's trying to find a way to save the person on an individual quantum chronodynamic level.
like freeze their consciousness and then sort of adapt them into an entirely new body. Which means if you could turn them into stone or an ent or a tree ent or from Tolkien or whatever, it means you could turn them into anything. A rock that skids across a desert all by itself. You guys seen those things? Anyway, I digress. But you were on Göbekli Tepe and some other stuff. Go right ahead. Sorry to interrupt with some other shop talk here. But there's
oh no, it's just
go ahead.
No man, I'm just ranting about it. Honestly, the Göbekli Tepe thing and the Kara Tepe and the Cyber thing, just how they've essentially destroyed these ancient ruins. I mean, these ancient ruins have completely rewritten the way that history is taught on a large scale in universities. Before Göbekli Tepe, the assumption and the teaching was that cities developed first, basically in the area where Kuwait is today, the cities of Urk and Ur being some of the first examples. And then after that, religion took hold and then became stratified, just like the populace of the city. But when they found Göbekli Tepe, they realized that it predated the cities, and they realized that mankind had gathered for religious purposes and made these monuments on this large scale long before they got together and made cities. So this shouldn't be surprising, as everybody has a connection with the divine in some way or the metaphysical. So, it's been a part of the human condition since we've existed. So it makes sense that would be first. But yeah, they taught differently because they didn't have any evidence. And then when they found the evidence, it completely rewrote the history books, and not even an exaggeration. Like, that's not even a statement. They did. And so to watch them put these structures on it and dig 18 or 20 feet down into the very circle that's been carved out, not even on the outside of the circle, and pull out dirt, stone, and what is obviously, 10,000-year-old artifacts for tourists, and the money is difficult, right? And they try to hide it too. This is all in modern-day Turkey, which used to be Anatolia in ancient times, and part of basically the middle part of the Fertile Crescent, which stretched from Egypt up through the Anatolia region or modern-day Turkey, and then on up into Europe.
Which was the spot of the Trojan War as well, kind of smack dab in the middle of all that.
Yeah, Troy that Homer wrote about. He wrote the Odyssey and the Iliad. The Iliad was basically about the Trojan War, and the Odyssey tends to be more famous because Hallmark made a movie about it.
Of course, if anybody's going to make a movie about you, it may as well be Hallmark. Also, that's the voyage home, right, with Odysseus and the rest of that too, which is where the monsters come in, and Poseidon, and I mean they're all the gods are involved in the first part, but the second part is like super wild. It's like, bro, yeah, like we just went off the rails. It's like we went from the old world into, well, whatever the new world is becoming. Wild stuff. I haven't read them all. Just again, anecdotes from back in college. We had these thick books that were encapsulations of all these myths that I've been reading over and over, and that's basically the extent of my knowledge plus D&D, as you know. But it's wild. Probably the more you dig into this, again, just extrapolating, the more sort of threads there are here as part of this conversation. Regarding what else you got regarding any of this? Did you know about the Moscovium thing and sort of the Bob Lazar aspect of the propaganda bit? Because you did bring that up in the chat.
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew about it, and because that precipitated. I don't know if you remember or not, but do you remember when everybody thought that they were going to go ahead and storm area? What, 54, 52?
51.
51.
That's right.
51.
I live right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember that when they were all going to storm it?
Yeah, hell yeah.
And then it just didn't happen, right? Like, it turned out no civilian, not even a group of civilians, really wanted to storm a military base in the end, and they didn't do it. And I really thought they were going to. I really did, and I wanted them to, but they didn't.
It turned into like a club scene here in Vegas. Like, instead, they're like, "Oh, let's go hang out in the club in Vegas instead.
Let's have a beer instead."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was.
Let's not get shot at by the military.
Yeah, and the dog or whatever, they had like a dog in armor. I don't know if you saw some of the footage on that. It was a weird time.
Yeah.
So actually, that was kind of a time when Troubled Minds broke down. I lost the original co-host, Frank. Shout out, Frank, if you're out there listening. We love you. We miss you. You're welcome back. Get your ass back in here. But it kind of broke down. No co-host, and so it was kind of in that weird liminal space of, do I continue this? You know, am I good enough to do this on my own? You know, all the doubts regular humans have. But it was right smack dab in that space, and I thought about going down there and doing like man on the street interviews, and I'm just like I don't know if I have the energy for that. But
it
was a weird
time.
That's
what Bob Lazar did, basically. All of that he talked about preceded that and got people interested in finding out that particular thing. That was one of the things on the agenda. And so I remember him talking about it. There was like, there's a lot of stuff on TV about it, but in particular, there was like an 1.5-hour documentary that they had on him. There was like footage and stuff, and he was on there explaining, what he had seen and why he was working there and his background and this sort of thing. And he also built like a large rocket bicycle in his garage that they were talking about. But yeah, I remember that.
It was a weird time, and for me too, as part of this whole thing, because I'm like, do I still want to do this? And so we kind of pivoted from sort of alien, UFO, paranormal sort of conversations into the larger human conversation that this really fits into, the Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell stuff, which makes a ton more sense to me than no offense to experiencers and that thing. Like, no disrespect, I feel really, really horrible for people that can't explain these anomalous things and whatever contact is happening. Like I said, I can't define it. I feel bad about it. However, like, kind of chasing that rabbit hole is like, it's fleeting, because you can only get so many of these experiences before you're like, how much of this is really in our heads? And then it came through, and I don't mean, again, I believe you. Don't get me wrong. But it came through Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung to be like, okay, look, this can actually be an intellectual conversation about UFOs that has nothing to do with the experiencer. It's a larger human context of mythology and folklore and the resonant energy we reside in. I think it's more or less, you decide, more or less important than these other things. But as usual, right, you kind of make those determinations. But glad to be here as part of it and evolve as part of it and still be interested in this, because you talk about the same level of ideas and things forever, you get bored with them. Anyway, so rambling on about myself. Anything on that, James? And then back to Eric. I appreciate you staying late with us, both of you guys. And then let's kind of button this up.
That's an Emily. No, I'm just kidding. But no, great calls from everyone. It's funny. Like, I think that's one of the few areas where, like, I kind of push back in a way myself, like, against the whole idea of it just sort of that it could be like just in the minds of people. But I do think that exists along with the experiences people have. And so that's why whenever, these kinds of articles come up regarding that UFO experience, that, whether it was or wasn't real, that's why I can never completely say, well, no, I don't think that could have been real at all. I just can't do it because of just how many other experiences I've heard and read about and my own experiences. But that's okay because, like you said, we don't have to agree on everything. And so that's fine. These ancient sites, they really are fascinating. And it is, the tourism thing is sad to me in a way. The way that things are hidden or places try to fix the buildings, these ancient structures, and then it doesn't work out right. So yeah, that's I don't know, but all these energies I think are out there that connect everything, the stone, the experiences, and I was thinking too with the turning things to stone. I've heard of, a lot of times in fiction you see the idea of something being vaporized, and I almost feel like it's the exact opposite in a way of being turned to stone. It's like the other end of the extreme in that regard.
Wow.
And
wow.
I don't know. It's just it's because we've heard of that too, and you see that in fiction as well. Just you set that phaser too high, in Star Trek again, going back to that, then that's what happens.
Just zap you through to the other universe. That's the other end of the white hole or whatever. That's crazy. Like that's the type of stuff. I wonder. You got my mind reeling here. I'll take some notes. We'll get back to this. And this is the point, right? Conceptually thinking about these things, it's again a fool's errand, of course, because nobody can tell the future. And if you can, definitively, please contact me. We'll do a show every night and predict tomorrow. But if you can't,
the show will end in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. The show will end in, damn it, James. All right, there you go. All right. You're welcome back every night, James. But you get what I mean. Like it seems like a fool's errand, but again, that dreaming at scale is not, because it's always been what drove humanity forward. And not the only thing, of course, but it's one of the important things. Fire stuff, James. Always a pleasure. Eric, what you got on that or anything else? As you know, take it anywhere you like, whatever kind of tickles your fancy. And again, I appreciate you staying up late and wrapping the science into this, which I am not. I'm not a scientist. I'm barely a philosopher. I'm barely a folklorist, but I'm just me. And sometimes that's good enough. Welcome back. What you got? Go right ahead.
I mean, like a final thought is we're all dreamers. Doesn't matter if they're scientists or PhDs or just an individual with an experience or who have had an experience. It's all valid. Doesn't matter if it's external or internal or if it's secular or celestial. These things call for us to ask questions. It's part of the human condition to want to understand what these things are, wherever they come from. We know they exist because we all spend time doing it and talking about it, from scientists with the Drake equation to people who've had experiences, spiritual to secular, right? Extraterrestrial, whatever. Something's going on. We should definitely talk about it. We should definitely talk about it from every vector that we can and try to understand as much of it as we can. Nothing should be shut out, not the understanding of a spiritual recollection and not the science that's in front of us.
Damn, this guy's good. This guy's good.
He is.
He's very good. Every time Eric pops in, always appreciate it, of course. Everybody in the chat's like, damn, this guy's really smart. I'm getting DMs. Damn, this guy's smart. Yeah, this guy's smart. But also too, by the way, he's an OG dreamer. He's a dungeon master from the early days, and through the Satanic Panic and the whole thing. It's definitely a kindred spirit. Glad to have you here. Always a pleasure. Got anything coming out on the music scene that you can tell us about? And I'll pull up your site here and tell everybody where to follow you.
No, man, I'm still liminal right now. I'm still getting settled where I'm at. I got an interview tomorrow, in fact, a third one, hopefully final one.
Nice. Really? The third interview for the same job?
Yeah, it sucks. The more you get paid, the more they want to interview you before they give you a paycheck. They really want to make sure that you got all your credentials and crap and referrals and make sure that you didn't kill anybody in another state and that sort of thing, They just want to make sure.
Did you do any panels yet? Like several people barking at you?
No.
That was the old way. Hopefully they've moved on from that because of Zoom and whatnot. But in the old days when you used to interview for that stuff, you had like 3 or 4 people like leaning in and breathing heavily and asking you some ridiculous question. You're like,
well, that was in person.
Okay.
Like I had a phone interview, then an in-person interview, and this is some kind of a weird, okay, do the job interview and make sure you want to do it. And I really think it's like they're going to make sure I can do it, I think is what they really want to do.
Which you can't ever actually know. You know, like people can talk a good game and then you get in there and you suck. I'm not saying you're going to do that. I'm just saying that this happens all the time, which is why people are always super cautious. But good luck. Good luck.
Before.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck on that and all the rest. And again, thanks for staying up late with us and being the bro. Holy crap, blowing up our brains. Again, troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down a little bit. It says follow Eric here. While you're there, please follow everybody else as well. Like I said, this is it's a show together. We do this together. Again, free form. I bring sort of a skeleton conversation and we just kind of riff and that's it. Talk about ideas that I'm going to miss, that you're going to miss, but together, notice we've slain it over the years, and that's a very important thing. And like I said, it's very important to me that probably my defining, aside from super weirdo, has been that I'm just nice. I'm nice to people. And it's not again, you know, it's easy to lash out and be mean and be stupid and be judgmental and be just dumb. I've tried very hard not to be, and here we are. Years and years later, we've made a bunch of amazing friends. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down, click Eric. Please follow him again. Hammersmith Music. He's got a Bandcamp and a YouTube channel. Please go listen to the man's work. Always a pleasure, brother. Thanks for staying up late with us. James as well, while you're down there, troubledminds.org/friends. Go ahead, sir.
I just thank you, sir, for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. And let's help our friends. That's what this is about. Again, like I said, we need not compete when we could collaborate. You get it? It's very important. But recognize, of all the concepts in this show, there's some very, very human staples that make the most sense. And that is one of them. Being nice is one of them. Again, whether you believe or not, you don't have to believe. I don't care. I'm not trying to track you down and shake a stick at you and make you believe anything. It's interesting. If you want to help Troubled Minds, you know what to do. Help our friends. troubledminds.org/friends. Please spend some time. Like I said, there's a ton of time that goes into preparing this show, doing this show, editing this show, doing the websites, all the things. It's an unbelievable amount of time. Please spend 5 minutes a couple times a week and go follow the people on our friends list. Please, if you have not, you're hurting my feelings. So much has gone into this, so much human energy. And if you can't spend 5 minutes here or there to please help our friends, I'm crushed. Because that's what this is all about. Easy as that. If you want to help Troubled Minds directly, you know what to do. Spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening where we're not going to talk about politics. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. And by the way, I have so checked out. Usually, I drive by day on my job, but I'm driving in silence. I've turned the radio off entirely because I cannot do it. I just can't do it. All the political talk is just destroying my brain. I can't do it. Consider some silence as well in trying times. If you want to help us directly, spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening where we're not going to tell you to vote for. And we're going to talk about things that many others do not. And even if it's in the zeitgeist, we're going to talk about it a different way. Because there are infinite options in an infinite universe. Not even talking the multiverse. That's that. If you want to help directly, I got a day job, so I don't spend my time begging people for money, nor should I. But if you do appreciate the work I do here, putting us all together and all the rest, the time spent, troubledminds.org. Click the support link there. There's also the shop where you can buy Troubled Minds merch. You will not find Michael Strange in a hot tub, but you will find the hottest Troubled Minds merch around at troubledfans.com. That's the commercial. That's why I know it and repeat it. That's it. We'll be back, what's tonight, Thursday? Tomorrow night, you guys down to chop it up again? Sometimes Friday nights we kind of kick it on the Discord. Come on and say hi. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, troubledminds.org, click the Discord link. It's right on top. It's the blue button up there. It's a chat client. It's a voice client. It's completely free. You do not have to talk to people if you don't want to. You could just type and stuff. And the only rule is, as I always say, just don't be a douchebag. That's it. Just be cool and chill. That's the rule. I mean, there's some other rules, but that's like the baseline rule. That's it. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Who haven't we said hi to in quite a while now? Let's go over. I keep leaving the Rumble chat bereft of love. This one goes out to Caligula over there on Rumble. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours,
Have a great night.